Can you guys hear me now? It says it's working. You said turn the fan all the way up. Weird cat, shush. It's working? Okay, good. My fan will calm down here in a second. Let me scoot my laptop over to the edge. Hey, Streets. Girl, how's work going? Woohoo, yeah. Jesus, criminy. If I can just cut a break, I swear. Hey, Tom. Hey, Shaboogs. Hey, Chester. Hey, American Mom. Weird Cat. La 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 la. Big JD. Tatiana. Judy. Bees Jones. Karen Hall. Judy. Fig. Fig was here first. Shout out to Fig for being the first to drop a hello in the chat. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day. Let me rewind my intro. I said, hello, welcome to Case by Case. This is part 7 of the Delphi Vault, the deep dive. Look at the Delphi case from the very early days. And all of the parts, I've put them in a playlist on the channel. So if you haven't watched them, you should be able to find them all there. And I'm trying to make sure I keep them organized. I'm doing a lot of editing on the site, just to try make things a little bit easier for you guys to find. So how's everybody doing? Everybody have a good holiday, enjoying the weather. Today's actually, believe it or not, I'm in a dark room, but it's nice outside. Hey guys. So, hey Tammy. Hey Jean. Hey Dorothy. Hey Tom. Everybody, listen. I apologize. I've been off YouTube for about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. I think the last live I did was with Sergio. Sergio is working on a lot of different things, including the Kelsey German analysis. I do want to address a couple of comments that were put in the chat that I think maybe I was misunderstood. So, hey, Michael, I think that you guys thought that I was like, or a couple people, not everybody, but a couple people thought that maybe I was holding Sergio back on, I don't know what, to be honest, because he does his thing and then he gets with me about what his thing ultimately came out to be. So what I want to convey to all of you is that I don't want to push Sergio into feeling like my concept of the case, my perspective of the case, I don't want that to interview his analysis of anybody. I want him to be able to watch these individuals and take away his own expertise opinion about them. And he's capable of doing his own research. I'm not sending him layouts or storylines of, well, this person was said to have done this person was said to have done that. I've not done any of that. Actually, I've in fact told him that I would wait until after he's done analyzing everybody that we want him to analyze before, like, I really kind of lay it out. And even then, I don't want to lay it out to him, my opinion. I want to lay it out just, an overall scope of the case. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch base a little bit because there was a couple of comments left for me. And I was like, oh, I didn't mean it that way, I didn't mean to say, no, Sergio, you can't know this or you can't know that. I didn't want to be the gatekeeper. That is one thing I don't want to be ever, is a gatekeeper. There's enough of that's gone on for the past 8.5 years. And I'm not, but I'm not the person who holds the lock and key either. I'm here to do the research and put as much forth as I possibly can. So you guys don't have to. You can show up and then you can debate me. That's what we're doing here. So, yes, I've seen the random juror speak out. I'm going to save my comments. I have to be honest, this has taken precedent right here. And I've been working on this start of this Delphi Vault episode. I had to balance where I wanted to go. I think I said this like 2 weeks ago. When you go back to the beginning of this case, you are literally like, it's like a tennis ball or a tennis racket, tennis match, whatever you want to call it, back and forth. You go, oh my God, I forgot about this. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Wait a minute. That is really, you know, prevalent to today. So, Karen Hall, hang on one second, I'll answer that. Um, so, I had to kind of like reformat how I was going to do this series simply because I was running into so much, and I think you're going to see that today. And this this is I'll get into this the PowerPoint presentation here in a minute, but you're going to see how discombobulated this timeline is, to be honest. And there's nothing that you can do about it except read it. And I'm not saying that I'm putting forth today what you are to read. What I'm saying is that I've read it and I'm still reading and I'm still adding. And that's the great thing about a PowerPoint, is because I can update it, I can edit it. And for those of you who are in my case by case Facebook discussion group, I'm starting now to share portions of my PowerPoints in there for all of the people in my group to have. That way, some of, a lot of the screenshots and things like that, you have all in one place. And Karen Hall asked a question. She said, Amy, I have a question. How does Sergio's analysis help RA? I guess my answer to that would be, how does it not help RA? And it's not that Sergio would ever be called as a witness. However, that is my reason for not wanting to press upon him my opinion. B, him looking at these individuals and based on his experience, with all of his training, with all of his military experience, him being able to look at someone and say, okay, they're lying. It's more of a tool, and that's how I feel we are going to use him, as a tool in this case, not that he's necessarily going to help Rick Allen. And anybody who's willing to offer these kind of skills, I don't think that we should have any problem with accepting them. So, any other questions? Hi, Kathy. So, anything anybody want to add? I'm trying to remember if I had anything else in my notes here that I wanted to go over besides what I've already said. And I just want you guys to know, going forward on this today, this has been really stressful on me, because, not in a bad way, but because I feel like when I include things in my presentation, I'm making decisions that maybe somebody else wouldn't make. Like maybe somebody else would have found something more important to put in the slideshow. For me, there's a method to my madness, I guess I can say. And even though I'm presenting this presentation today, that doesn't mean that I don't have 5 other presentations in the works, and I kind of pull them in. I'll just give you kind of a little bit of a, so these right here are all notebooks for this case, just for this case. That's not including everything that I have over there for Ashley. So I am trying my best, and I want everyone listening to know that if you disagree with me, I'm okay with that. Don't come at me sideways. Don't come into my chat, especially after a live, and like ridicule my work, because to be honest, it hurts my feelings. And it makes me less motivated to work even harder. I like positive feedback. My email is going across the bottom, and that is because if you disagree, well, not just if you disagree, but if you love the work, if you have something to offer, email me. But if you disagree, don't just come in the chat and say, well, I heard, or this and that and the third. Email me and give me proof why you disagree so I can correct it. I like having proof. And that's why my lives are so long. That's why my presentations are so in depth, because I like to be able to show my work. And at this point in the game, 8.5 years later, I'm going to be very clear. This is our work, all of our work. There are a lot of people behind the scenes who help each other, share screenshots, share theories, share documents. We all help each other. And all of you, I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for people who've emailed me. I have a slew of people in my email right now that I am just like, wow. Thank you so much for that, because I would have had a hell of a time tracking that down. And even though I try to keep everything organized and in my Dropbox, at the end of the day, I still forget where I put it, like what's it under, what files it in. So that's just my request for all of you listening, that if you're on the replay crew, or you guys feel like I've misquoted, or you completely disagree with the information that I'm putting out, I'm okay with that. Yes, Anna, I am aware about the yeah, I seen some of it this morning. I watched a little bit of it. I'm going to watch all of it before I comment. I'm never going to disparage a juror because they have a hard job, and we know what we know, and they know what they were allowed to know. That's how I'm going to leave it. I have not heard from RA. I do not communicate with RA to know if he's alive. Thank you, Chester. So, okay. All right. And now let me take myself off camera here for just a second, because I need to get back into some things here. Bees Jones. Oh my God. I cannot believe you just said that. Girl. Guess where we're going today? We're going down my favorite path, Bees Jones. Yes, we are. Okay, let me take myself off here so I can get my bearings and go back to what I had in my brain, what my train of thought was. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, guys, which is that's no big deal. I get up at 3 normally for work, because I was getting behind on my lives. I actually don't tell anybody, but I took the day off today to do this. So I've been up since 5 o'clock. So for those of you who work with me close, you were getting Facebook messages and text messages about, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So, oh, let me remove that. Okay, we're going to start off today with and I'm going to read it because I'm using a lot of things today, and I hope nobody comes at me. Everything that we're using today is going to be for educational purposes, discussion. Fair use disclaimer: this content may contain copyrighted material, the use of which has not always been specifically authorized by the copyright owner. This material is made available for educational, commentary, criticism, news reporting, or research purposes, which is exactly what we're doing here, which constitutes fair use under Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. All rights belong to their respective owners. I give everybody full credit for any video that I play today that I did not make, which is going to be all of them. So I wanted to put that out there before we get started. Now, This is the Delphi Vault, episode 7. Welcome to Indiana. What I'm doing in this first part of this part 7 is it's going to feel a little scattered today. It's going to feel a little bit like a lot, and nothing that I am going to discuss today is in concrete. This project is still a work in project. And I feel like I've gotten it solidified enough to be able to present it to you guys and continue to move forward as I can go back and change, update, adjust. Okay, so the information today that we're going to go over is a compilation of many things from February 7th or February 13th, from past 2017 to 2020, all the way up to trial. I have tried to piece and part things that I feel are very, very relevant. I've tried to exclude going down rabbit holes because at this point in time, I feel this case is at a juncture that Rick Allen needs all of us. And we cannot continue to entertain, number one, drama. There's just no room for it right now. And I say that for the life of a man, and I say that for the justice of 2 little girls. But going forward, we have to focus on the facts that we have at hand. Entertaining things that we think might speculatively be involved. At the end of the day, there's already been a trial. So we are confined to things that we have to utilize to help us make sense of what we know, what's been proven, and how what we know and what's been proven can actually be challenged. That's the crossroad that we're at. And excuse me if I don't answer any questions in the chat at the moment. I have this full screen, so I'll be looking at my screen, not the chat. So if you disagree with what I present today, I get it. Just cut me a little bit of slack. Please grab a pen, grab a paper. I need you guys to take notes. There's a lot here. There's a massive amount of a timeline here that I will be taking all of the information that you're going to get today, and I will be piecing and parsing it out into a real timeline, like a grid with time slots. But I need to narrow all of this down. I need, as we go forward here, there's probably about 35 slides for today. Plus, I've got about 4 or 5 videos that I want to touch on. So I'm going to try to move quickly. So I want you guys to take notes if you're able to. If you're at work like me normally and you're just listening, I'll do my best to describe what we're looking at. I'll do my best to read out the questions from chat. So, but if you're at home and you're able to take notes, or you're somewhere where you're able to take notes but not see the screen, that's fine. Grab a notebook. We're starting with a clean sheet. This is some of this tad bit is going to be from early morning, February 12th, but the majority of it's going to be from the 13th. And I'm still not done. And if my parrot in the background is bothering you, I'm sorry. It's his chirp hour. He's having a whole party downstairs by himself. So after months, I'm going to say years, but I've been working on this timeline, just reviewing, not putting this together, but I've been going back and finding everything that I can possibly find. I am here to tell you that I believe the answers to this crime exist right here in these 4 pictures. Under the Monon High Bridge, on the Monon High Bridge, at the end, at the south end, crossing the private drive, and within 3 hours leading up to that day, people stepping on that bridge. I feel the answer lies within this realm right here. I'm sure you guys have seen these photographs before. I am here to tell you that the Delphi timeline does not make sense. The state's version does not make sense. I can't make it make sense. I can't make it make sense and make Richard Allen, bridge guy, and a killer. I can't do it. And I am also 100. It is going to take a NASA scientist to convince me at this point that for the years that we've had this 2:07 p.m. photo of Abby, it's going to take a NASA scientist to prove to me that what we see in the foreground there, that the yellow arrow is pointing to, is not people. And when I'm done with this timeline, I'm hoping I can prove to you that there are people at the north end of the bridge in the foreground. We've got to make it make sense. And as of right now, it does not. Who's approaching from the north end of the bridge? I know we've been over this. I just can't help but reiterate it. We've got BG in the video around 2:13 approaching fast, very fast, because when we go back, we see how far back those images are. I have almost convinced myself that the man that we see behind Abby did not come from the north end of the bridge. I am almost certain that he came from the south end and then did a U-turn. Here again, without it getting too pixelated, I'm convinced there are people in the foreground. 2 for certain, 1 possibly on the first platform. And the reason I say I believe it's the first platform, is because if this was the third platform, they would be much closer, number 1. Number 2, we have multiple instances of someone being on the first platform. And that's not just coming from Betsy Blair. So it's not a far reach to say that there's 3 images here and one of them could be standing on the first platform. But if this was the third platform, it would be much closer. It would be more in perspective. But I do not believe for not 1 minute that we are looking at the barrier on the north end of the bridge. These photos show you when you're approaching back then the bridge, what that barrier looked like. The second photo from the left is you're getting closer. The third photo is you're right up on it. And the fourth photo to the right is after you've came around the barrier. Look at the distance between the barrier and the bridge. Gone over it, not going to waste a lot of time on it, but it has to be a part of this series. It just does. But what we're seeing back there with Abby is not that barrier. That barrier only has 2 legs. They're orange. They're not up on the bridge. These images appear to be actually on the wood planks, not off the foreground. Here's some more photographs. You can see from an overhead aerial that you can see all of this distance from the north end of the start of the Monon High Bridge, where that arrow is pointing in this third photograph. That barrier is even sat back further. And this was the best zoomed in photo that I could get in my probably really cheap camera program on my laptop. I see 3, 2 for 100% sure. The third person that could be on the platform, I don't know, but there's some people back there, period. Now we're going to go into the chaos of the day, the timeline chaos, the who's coming, the who's going, where they were, where they weren't, who saw them, who didn't, and how can all of these people be where they said they were if we have proof they were somewhere else. It's a 4-piece jigsaw, period. And we need to cross-check all of this to make it make sense. And I did this slide probably, I don't know, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, where I said there were 4 groups of girls on the trails. I need to correct that because there are technically 3 all-girl groups on the trails and a 4th group of a very large amount of people that we need to pick and plug in throughout this timeline of this day. So I'm going to check on chat, see if any of you guys have any questions, or you're going to say I'm stupid, whatever. So let me see here. Yeah, it's definitely a barrier, not, yeah, or I mean, it's definitely people, not a barrier. I misspoke, sorry. Well, you know what, Anna, I don't want you guys to be at the mercy if if you're not technically savvy. You don't have to be technically savvy, and you are completely entitled to make up your own mind. And that's why, like with those images, I see what I see. I can't, if you don't see it, I mean, that's okay. But I know that for years, we all thought that we saw someone back there, and people are like, no, it's the barrier. And it was really dismissed. I think that is one of the worst misconceptions about that 207 photograph, is that we dismissed what we thought we saw in the background. And then the second issue with that photo is, who the hell took it? How did it get on Snapchat? That still is a mystery. But it's definitely not the barrier. Oh, no, Anna, no, no, I don't think that at all. You're fine. Anna said, please don't think I'm criticizing you. No, I don't. I want you to know that you don't have to see things. And I think that's why I'm such a talker. I talk through my I think I talk through my thought process. Um, Tom, any chance someone could get a clearer image with a professional photo software? I would hope so. And um, like, honestly, I don't know why it's not been done already. Um, I mean, that's been a conversation piece for years about what we see in the background. Why wasn't it done? I ask myself every single day that I spend hours working on this case. And when I say working on this case, I'm saying I'm doing it. I'm doing it for me. I enjoy this work. I'm doing it because I enjoy coming on here. I'm a talker, obviously. But I'm also doing it because I just have a really big problem with injustices that goes on many levels in this country. And people do not help people in prison unless there's people out here like us who make it, who bring it to the public eye. I mean, how's anybody going to find out about so and so who was incarcerated for such and such, who's not guilty? Who's going to find out about them? It takes someone taking an interest. So I enjoy this work. I really, really, really enjoy this work. But you don't have to see it through my eyes. But I try to be as thorough as I can. Big JD, when did you send that? Because I haven't seen it, and there's a good chance that it might be in my spam. JD says that he sent a picture of the bridge showing how many people can be on a platform. That would be good to see. Aaron Hall says, question, with all of your research and conversations you have you withheld information from us? Yes, I have. And the reason that I have is because, number one, I wouldn't have the information if I couldn't be trusted. And there's a very real, dangerous implication for divulging that information. Number one, because it's still not completely been fact-based. Number two, because it's something that is still being worked on, and it's not going to hinder what you know and what we're presenting about this case on this channel. I'm going to be honest, I really go up against the razor blade on putting out information that I feel, it's not, I might be going a little too far, but in order to make it make sense, but I do not like withholding information, but putting out information that when I don't have the authority to put out can hurt people who are either within, what's the word I'm looking for? They're in a position of trust somewhere else. And it also could hurt the cases, because this is behind the scenes. I'm working on a couple, but this case and Ashley's case are the two wrongful conviction cases that are in the forefront on my channel. So it's not intentional and it's not by choice, but it does help me gear. How about this, Karen? It helps me make decisions better when it comes down to making direction choices, where I'm going to go next, what is a waste of time to focus on versus what we need as a group in a community to continue to keep our eye on. There are a lot of things that I've kind of let go to the wayside because it's just been a dead end. And unfortunately, I think this case is massive, and we need to shrink down the seriousness of it, if that makes sense. We need to stop with all of the rabbit holes and the accusations and things that things that have been said for years that have never been proven. Things that have been allegations or speculation that has never been proven. There's like not one screenshot. There's not one interview. There's not one Reddit post, not one Facebook group. Not one person has come forward and said, hey, I was there. I saw it. So-and-so told me. And I'm going to start, number one, with the ceremony or the party, the hog roast and all of that going on at Ron Logan's property. All I've heard is gunsmoke about all of that going on at Ron's property. I cannot find not one person to collaborate that was going on. I can't find one connection that Brad Holder knew Ron Logan. And I'm not saying that it didn't exist, but as a community, coming on my chat and saying, oh, well, I know this, or, oh, well, I know that. Well, you know what? I'm going to say to you, unless you can provide me proof, I'm going to have to disregard it this late in the game. I have no choice. Hey, Callie. Oh, Callie, I'm going to make you my girl. Callie, I'm going to make you a mod as soon as I get a chance to pull that side of the channel up. So, anywho, gonna bring this back up. Bees Jones asked if RL was affiliated with the Masons at all. Not that I can prove. RL it's been rumored that he was affiliated with a lot of different people, none of which I can prove. So we are going to get into this 4 groups, and I'm going to give, I'm not going to say his name. He's in my Facebook group. He's a longtime follower of the case. Him, amongst many others, have helped with us narrowing down the information there's a plethora of information out here. But we've narrowed it down thanks to him. I have to give a huge blowing her a kiss. All eyes on Delphi. She's amazing. She's somebody that I consider to be very much like me. She's very willing to help, very willing to share the information. I don't feel like anyone's going to benefit now if we all just keep everything a secret. She's done tremendous work and she's offered me so much access to the work that she's done. And I've been able to take all the research that I have and I've, checks and balances across the way, utilizing several facets of information, but all eyes, kudos to you, sweet girl. You're amazing. But we've narrowed this down to group one. Group one is the group that we are all aware of, that we've known about since pretty much day one. We know that we had a sketch come from this group. This group had multiple people from this group has done interviews, and a handful from this group one have testified. Now, Winnie and Chastity are two people that were within this group that we've not heard about on a public stage, public forum during pretrial motions during the trial. They were interviewed by law enforcement and they were deemed to be insignificant. What they had to offer apparently wasn't going to change what they had gotten from the first couple of girls that they interviewed. Group two is a second group of girls that were out on the trails that day. Kylie Marie Harper, who is in fact Ashley Garth's younger stepsister. Technically, she's not a stepsister by marriage. Ashley's dad has dated her mother for years, but she was out there. I have been able to confirm that. And this group out here is one of the more insignificant groups because their times vary. But within that group, a handful of these girls were classmate friends of Libby. And the last girl, where it says GK's girlfriend, maybe Babcock, she has been stated to be with this group two, out there on the trails, but I've not been able to confirm it. And that would be Michaela Babcock, AKA Michaela Hartman. If you remember in one of the first or second episodes of the Delphi Vault, we discussed screenshots from her where she discussed how much in love she was with Garrett and that the bridge guy audio sounded like Garrett. So she's been reportedly possibly a part of this group too. That's why I kind of put her at the bottom and I'm reiterating it. Group three are the three girls that we've all been talking about that law enforcement never spoke to. They were there. And for their anonymity and to not dox them, well, first of all, let me back up. RH and MM. I'm not going to dox at all. EC, I know who that is, and I've spoken to her in regards to another case. And so for now, I'm going to leave her initials as EC, and I will get into her a little bit later. Overall, for the most part, I have no real solid proof of their arrival time. I do have communication, which I think some of us out here who do the work like this have the communications from these girls publicly on social media where they're discussing that day and being out there. There's never been able to be a solid pinpoint of arrival time, but we do know that they left around 1:20 p.m. to play basketball. Please keep that 1:20 p.m. timestamp in the forefront of your brain. Group four, the group that matters. So let me pull myself back on screen here. Okay. Yes, Shabugs is the lead detective on she is. So, oh, thank you, Michelle. I love you, Michelle. Thank you. for your $40. God, thank you. Um, they didn't talk to everybody. And all eyes, I don't know what you're up to, mama. I don't know. If you want to hop up here and join me, you can. Feel free. I can always use the backup because I know my brain can get like wacky going over trying to keep all of this stuff straight. So for me, and now maybe All Eyes has a different theory, which would be another great reason for her to come up if she's hands free of babies today. Um, I am trying to shave away the bullshit. Okay, things that we've all been hung up on that ultimately at the end of the day doesn't matter. There's and it doesn't mean that it's not significant. It doesn't mean that it's throwawayable. But when we're getting down to the crutches of what happened, really what matters is 145 onward. And I say 145 because that is roughly the time that Kelsey drops the girls off. Everything else that is important to discuss, I feel we need to eliminate the white noise and get down to business on who we can prove was there and why it X's out other things as being insignificant. I don't want to downplay anybody's feelings. I don't want to downplay any witness. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is if we want to help Rick, we need to get off the bullshit. We need to get off of all of the things that we get hung up on, like what he said, she said. That right there is where we run into problems. Doesn't matter anymore about the he said, she said. What matters is what happened in the trial, what we can discount that was presented at the trial, and things that we can link to this case, whether it be new evidence or ineffective assistance of counsel that can be presented during a post-conviction relief case or a new trial. This stuff right here, whether post-conviction or not happens, let's say we are successful on the direct appeal, all of this cannot be presented at a new trial. We have to shave it. We've got to shave it. We've got to figure out what's important. So when I say the group that matters to me are the ones that butt right up to Abby and Libby stepping onto the bridge, and what came immediately before that and what came immediately after that. And publicly, I want to prove or disprove that theory. And I feel it's important to going forward. And again, I'm not done. Do I believe that she dropped them at that time, though? Elena asked. You're talking about Kelsey. So let me say this. We are stuck at the moment with what information came in at trial on a post-conviction relief investigation, unless we can prove materially that there is evidence that says otherwise, factual evidence representing new evidence. Arguing 1 to 2 to 3 minutes is not going to make a difference. So do I believe that she dropped them off at that time? I would say within a 3-minute window, I'm going to have to say yes. Now, if we're looking at 20 minutes, 30 minutes timeline outside of that, then then we have room to argue and debate new evidence, new findings, and you got to prove it. But what everyone who is following this case needs to understand is that we've already had a trial. We are stuck with what was presented at that trial. We're also stuck with what was argued at that trial. The direct appeal can help us on what wasn't allowed to come into the trial, or how the rulings within the pretrial motions and the trial, the judge ruled incorrectly, and Rick Allen's rights were violated. So it's best that we just not continue to get hung up on all of the other stuff. Love you guys. Love all of you who followed this case for years and have, huge theories, but we are stuck with what was presented at trial, basically, to a degree. So, Snaggle Mama, if you scroll all the way up to the very top of this chat, I posted my Facebook case by case discussion group link in there. If you're a mod, can you go to the Facebook page and copy and paste the link for the Facebook group and add it in the chat? Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to I need to get into the YouTube here real quick. So this fourth group that we have been pretty much forgotten completely about, I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of us, because of the trial and how the case wound down during the trial, this fourth group to me is hella important. Hella important. That's the quickest way that I can say it. And I'm going to show today why I feel that way. And hold on. I got a whole little thingy here going on. Sorry. Hey, Callie, Sweet Pea, I'm making you a mod. And where's Weircat? Weircat, you were a mod. I don't know why you're not a mod anymore. But I'm going to reissue your wrench really quick. Electric Weircat, you are now a mod. Again, I don't know how that happened. So, okay. Hey, Mother of Dragons. Okay. So, in this group 4 that we have, and I'm still adding to this list. In this group 4, we have David Riley. David Riley was a guy who was out on the trails, I believe around 2:30. We're going to get to his statement later on here. Who was walking his dog. We have Cheyenne. We have a Shelby Duncan. We have a Shelby Hicks. We have a Cheryl Loeffler. And for those of you who have followed this case from day one, you were going to know why Cheryl Loeffler is on this list. And then I'm going to play some stuff for you today as to why she needs to stay on this list. Daniel Pearson. Look at me, I spelled his name wrong. It's going too fast. We have Dave McCain, 1. We have Dan McCain, 2. So we have McCain 1, we have McCain 2. We have Carl Abbott. Carl Abbott was said to be in a canoe on Deer Creek that day. We're going to get into that later in this series. Then we have Skylar Ebenhoff. And yes, for those of you who worry about me being a gatekeeper, I just said everybody's full name because all of these people's full names I have been able to verify have been out in the public spotlight on Reddit, in Facebook groups, anywhere over the years, screenshots, etc. So I'm not going to play ring around the rosy. I'm saying their names. The only group that I'm not saying their names is the group of the three girls, because they have been private up until now. People know of them. Some people know their first and last name. Some people don't. So we have our first group. And this is important. I'm going to really, really try to breeze through this as quickly as possible because it's not anything new that you guys aren't aware of. But we have our first group, which is our Bree, Rayleigh is Anna, Winnie, and Chastity, which Winnie and Chastity, you guys probably haven't fluently thrown their names around. This is group one. This is the one that the state wanted you to believe was the group that was in play, who saw the unknown man on the at the trailhead dressed somewhat similarly to the guy that was captured on Libby's cell phone. On the right-hand side here, if you were walking across Freedom Bridge, this is what it would look like. This was the path the girls took to get to the trailhead. And when I say trailhead, I'm going to establish that this trailhead right here at Freedom Bridge on my channel, I don't care what anybody else calls it somewhere else, on my channel, I'm going to say it is Freedom Bridge 1, or I'm sorry, Trailhead 1. This to me is the main trailhead. This is the entrance to the actual Monon High Trails. The Mears lot and the injunction there with the trail system and the 501 going down to the water's edge, I would name that Trailhead 2. Okay. So this right here, coming across Freedom Bridge, is Trailhead 1. This is where the four girls that we know as witnesses came across. Before they crossed this bridge, the picture above it is the railroad bridge that's no longer in service that they would have had to have crossed. Years ago, this bridge used to be blue. It is now recently, in the past, I think 4 years, has been painted red, and Monon R has been put on it. So you know that it's a part of the Monon train system, but it's no longer in use. So if you're coming from the city park, you're coming from somewhere else, from near downtown, you cross this bridge. This bridge takes you over top of 300. If you drop down from the bridge and you see this main road here in the foreground, the wider road, that's 300. Directly under the bridge is a different path. We'll get to that later. Any questions about that? Chester 22, that is the point we're going to get to. Hey guys, give me 1 second. I don't know if you guys, can you hear my dog having a heart attack in the background? I think that I've got construction workers next door. I think they're putting in my neighbor's air conditioner. Let me go situate him because he's driving me absolutely insane. So hang on 1 second. If you just want to talk amongst yourselves for just about 1 minute, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. My golden, he's like 15 years old, and he thinks he's the neighborhood watchdog. But he does it from his padded little bed in the family room. He wants to just sit there and bark like I'm supposed to understand who he's telling on. Okay, so you look at the time. Let me back up one here with so that's what I said about don't get confused, take notes. I am slowly but surely interjecting things of importance as we go through this series, especially this day. This day is crucial. This day is really, to me, um, where all of the answers lie, to be honest. So we have the girls here arriving around 11:20, between 11:20 and 11:30. I believe that's right. Let me double check my work. Yeah, 11:20 to 11:30. Enter clear on the other side of the trail system, on the other side of the Monon High Bridge, near the crime scene, based on the Frank's motion and the request for findings of facts, uh, enters the unknown cell phone in the geofencing number 1, near the crime scene within 60 to 100 yards. So there was a random cell phone, according to the defense team, in their third Frank's motion that popped up near the crime scene within 60 to 100 feet. So my theory is, if this is a planned murder, if this was a staged crime scene, if this was a coordinated event, why should we not believe that the preparation, the planning, the mastermind movement behind all of this didn't start as early as 12:39 that day? Who's to say it didn't? Let me see. Yeah, Rachel D, we're gonna get to that. Yes. Yes. Rachel D says, now the now red bridge is also the one that RA crossed to get where he parked to, right? I believe so. So just remember that we already have, at this point in time, legally on paper, filed with the courts, Frank's motion that we have an unknown cell phone entering around the crime scene as early as 12:39. So we know the group 1 of girls, they arrive at the trailhead 1 out by Freedom Bridge between 11:20 and 11:30. They make a 10 to 15-minute walk, almost 4 times as long as need be, and they walk all the way out to the Monon High Bridge, and they take a photograph out there at 12:43. That is a solid timestamp. That is a time that we know that we can verify the movement of people within the trail system. It's documented. It's a photograph. It was in the trial. And that's what's important to me when pushing through what matters and what doesn't matter. Now, we're going to insert here the path Rick Allen would have had to have taken to get to the CPS building. And pretty much after this slide right here, we will no longer refer to the subject that Group 1 sees at the Freedom Bridge as Rick Allen. We will refer to him as the unknown male. If Rick Allen parked at the CPS building where the state claimed he did, where they claimed the Hoosier Harvest Store camera captured his vehicle, this would be the path that he would have had to have taken. Then you have to ask yourself, if this is the path that he took from his home, because we're going to go over that map, from his home to CPS, why was he described as coming from Freedom Bridge? In reality, he would have entered the trailhead number 1 from the right, not dead center in front of the group of girls. And I'm going to show you why. So, do you see this? This right here is like, what's the word I'm looking for? This is the injunction of Freedom Bridge, the trail from the CPS building, and trailhead number 1. Now, if the unknown male reportedly coming from Whiteman Drive, which is where RA's house was, like the state wanted us to believe, right here, he would have come out where this arrow is, this yellow arrow right here pointing to his house. He would have come out onto the road. He would have turned. He would have came all the way down, followed the dotted lines. Let me fast forward because I think I have a better track of that. No, I don't. Okay. So, sorry. He would have come out here and turned right, and he would have gone all the way around. Now, you have to ask yourself a really big, realistic question. If you live in this area, this is not the short way to the trails. I literally went to Rick Allen's home, started in front of his home, drove from his home to the trail system, allowing my GPS to give me the shortest route. By a long shot, coming off of Whiteman Drive from RA's house, turning left, going over, crossing up to downtown Delphi, and then out to the trails was absolutely the shorter route. So one would have to ask Jerry Holman, Steve Mullins, Nick McClellan, why in the hell would Rick Allen go this route? Because either route, he could get to the CPS building. I felt like their purpose of making this vehicle on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera Rick Allen's was because they wanted you to believe he was what? He went this way for what? Does anyone in chat have an explanation as to why they tried to justify? Because it's clearly because, or not because he knew there was a camera there. Clearly that wasn't the case because he drove right past it. Number one. Number two, if he would have gone the way that he claimed he went, he wouldn't have passed the camera to get to the CPS building. The only reason they need him to go this way is so it fits their narrative, and they can claim that that black car was on the Hoosier Harvest camera store that they're trying to now say was Rick's car. That's the only reason they needed to argue with him about the way he went. Yep, Travis, you're right. Hey, Travis, how you doing? So this whole route here, him going the long way around. Now, I have some screenshots that we're going to get into down the road of quite a bit of discovery. that I think unintentionally released in some photographs and some documents. It's kind of in the fine print down below of these documents, where unfortunately for Nick McClellan, he released a whole bunch of information about electronics being found, and he also discussed cameras from around town, businesses that had cameras. We're going to get into that down the road. But going this direction, this is what Rick Allen would have had to have done, and what he would have passed in order to get to the CPS lot the route that Jerry Holman and them said he did. He would have pulled off the street. It would have taken. He would have had to have left around 116, based on the distance. He would have drove all the way down to 400 west, all the way down 400 west. That turns into 300. He would have passed Ron Logan's property on his left. Then the cemetery, also on his left. The cemetery is on the same side of the road that Ron Logan's property is. Now, let me insert here realistic thought process. They want you to believe that Rick Allen was familiar with the trails. Go back to every single law enforcement interview that they give, especially all of the big press conferences, someone local, someone familiar. Okay. So Rick Allen going this direction, he's passing Ron Logan's. He would have gotten to the Monon High Bridge if he would have cut through Ron Logan's backyard, through the woods. He would have gotten there a lot quicker to the bridge, and he would have going all the way around. Number two, he could have parked in the cemetery. At the back edge line of the cemetery, he probably could have backed in his car so you couldn't see it in the woods at the back of the cemetery, and then cut through the ridge line, the ravine, and gone all the way out to the north entrance to the Monon High Bridge. Since he knew the area so well, he'd actually been out there with the McCains and done work in that area. But yet he took this asshole way around town, skipped going downtown, went the long way around so he could pass all of these easier outlets to the trails, only to pass the only freaking camera that was out there. So he continues on, passing the cemetery that's on his left. Then he passes the Mears parking lot, which is on his left, which everybody local knows is there. Everybody coming and going who wants to skip going out to the main entrance and they want to be able to come in right there by the bridge, park there. So he passes the Meir lot, also on his left. Then he should be, driving by the Hoosier Harvest Store and waving like, "Hi, here I am. I made this special trip just for you to catch me on camera so I can ultimately go right up here and park at the CPS lot, which is on the right-hand side, the same side of the road as the Hoosier Harvest Store, only to be captured on camera at 1:27:38 in a vehicle who, thus far, we're having a really hard time proving is actually Rick Allen's, based on the box on the back of the window, based on the sunlight coming through the tires, based on the model according to AI. But Jerry Holman, Mullins, and McClellan are smarter than all of us and everything else. So then here's the fun stuff. So he not only did all of that, passed up all of his easier access points to the crime scene come on, guys, this man, he's got his kill kit ready. He's dressed. He's got his face covered. He took the long way around just to make sure, he took the long way around, and he bypassed all of the easier access points to only go over here and park at the CPS lot on the side of the freaking road where the arrow is here in this picture. to park here. Then he wants to make sure he parades himself down this yellow line all the way up 300, this big distance right here that he would have had to have walked. Then he would have cut up this side trail here up to coming in from 300 to the main trail system, number 1. What do you guys think of that? Callie, exactly. He's going to get in and out. That's been my point the whole entire time. Why would he be out there praying? So, okay, Jackie, I get it. Why waste time talking about what he didn't do? What we have to waste time on it to make it to make those on the other side of the fence understand why we're here, why we're talking about it, why Rick Allen has a massive amount of supporters. Because first of all, I think that we are in a society where somebody in power tells us how something is or how something's going to be or how something happened. We just believe it. How many of you for your entire life up until about 4 years ago believe that there was no UFOs? And then now all of a sudden we can discuss it openly and publicly without feeling stupid because our government is. This has to be talked about because public awareness, public opinion is persuasive. And if we do not continue to speak up and speak out, and unfortunately, I don't care if we all had PhDs, we have to show our work in a situation like this, because once someone is convicted, it is an uphill climb. And if the state of Indiana does not feel pressure, if the politicians in Indiana do not feel pressure, if the judges and the prosecutors, who are usually all implemented into those positions by an election, if they don't feel pressure to answer to the community that they serve, we're not going to get justice. It's not going to be it's not going to be overturned. And I have no problem wasting my time in showing people on the other side of the fence. I don't want to use the word stupid. I want to use the word misguided. You believed someone that you thought you could have trusted or you should have been able to trust. That's where I am. So I have no problem discussing this, even though this is not what Rick Allen did. This is what the Carroll County prosecutor, who everybody who lives in that area has entrusted in enforcing the law, presented at trial. How did he get it so wrong? How? Did he get it wrong? Or did he intentionally get it wrong because they needed this case to go away? They were tired of the scrutiny. They were tired. It wasn't getting any smaller. The entire country, all of the spotlights, all of, your court TVs, all of your networks were kind of honing in on beautiful little tiny Delphi, Indiana. And people were getting outraged about this case. So were we misguided accidentally? Or was this something that if we can stuff it down in the trash bag, take it out to the garbage and throw it away, let's do that as quick as possible. And we're going to go to any amount of extreme to do that. And we're going to make sure, I'm sorry, it was no accident that Judge Diener stepped down. It was no accident that Robert Ives stepped down. It's been no accident that Robert Ives' interviews have been scrubbed from the internet. And it's no accident that someone like Nick McClellan rolled right into the prosecutor's position without an election and immediately began to bust a move. That's just how I feel about it. Nothing is accidental in this case. Um, Jackie, what we are left with, let me be clear on where I feel like I'm getting worked up because it pisses me off, to be honest. Um, Law enforcement officers are just like you and I. I worked in a very large metropolitan police department, and I understand the dynamics of camaraderie, the FOP. I understand being behind the headset that is directing traffic when I've got um, calls coming in about a person with a gun, a knife, or a rapist who is butt naked trying to climb through a window. Trust me, I've done all of that. Um, so I know the empowerment of sticking together in that sense when it comes to law enforcement. And I think that for a very long time, us as the public were led to believe that these are our heroes, that we can look to them for help, that they wouldn't lie to us, that everything that they say is exactly how it happened. And based on my experience, and I never encountered a situation where I felt like one of our officers was out of line or did anything correctly. But I can tell you that there is a lot of motions in play behind the scenes to make sure they're not questioned, number one. And number two, with law enforcement and the media, even back then when I worked in the radio room, there was a major disconnect. When I would work second and third shift and I would get off work and I'd be driving home and I'd had a really rough night. When I say a rough night, I'm talking about someone died or we had a B&E that went bad where they didn't get there in time. I mean, there's a whole slew of things, but driving home, I would hear on the 6 a.m. newscast them replaying the events of what happened overnight. And I'm sitting there driving home going, that's not what the fuck happened. Why are you reporting that? That's not what happened. Then when I say that, does your brain automatically go to, in my mind, I'm defending who I work for? When I say that's not what happened? Because I can tell you right now, let me give you a just okay, sidebar, just really quick, sidebar. I'm going to give you a scenario of where shit goes bad really quick and it's covered up. Um, Working 911, had a girl call in, hysterical, said that her and her roommate were upstairs in a bedroom watching a movie, and they were now in the closet because their garage door downstairs was going up and down. It kept going up and down. So I put in their address. I'm taking the call. At that point, I'm on 911. I'm not dispatching. We kind of like rotate throughout the night. So at that particular time, I was working 911. So second the call comes in, the address immediately pops up in the queue. And once she tells me what's going on, I code it and I send it. I don't even have to put notations on what's going on. I send it up to dispatch. So if they see it's a red run, which is a high priority run, and the dispatcher can start to look for cars who can go. Well, that particular address was an address that had just been recently annexed into our department. It was outside of our outer belt. And the car that actually patrolled that area had already been pulled south. So there was no car free and clear. to get there quickly. So these girls, I mean, so in my radio room, when a call like that comes in, it's a red run, it's a high priority run, it goes on speaker. So the room gets quiet and the dispatcher, I don't even have to be typing and sending information up for the dispatcher to hear what's going on. However, I continue to type because I want to add to the run, update the run, so it's all documented. So we had 2 undercover officers pop on the air and say, "We are in the area. We are on our way." So I notate the run. I start advising the caller, "We have someone on the way. We have someone on the way. Don't move." It's not my job when you're in the room and you're on the phones, you are liable if you give an instruction to a victim on the phone to do something and it goes wrong. Like if there's an alarm going off in the house, like there's a breaking and entering, you are to tell them to stay put. If you direct them to go somewhere and they run into a perpetrator and they get killed, their family can come back and sue the department because the 911 operator and made that instruction. So you got to be very careful. So told the girls to stay where they are. Detectives undercover show up at the house, go up to the door of the property, and they come on the air and they tell our dispatcher, whose name was Shelley, they said, "Tell her to answer the door." My dispatcher, Shelley, says, "I'm not telling her to answer the door. They're upstairs in a closet. I'm not authorized to tell them to answer the door." So there was an argument that started on air between the dispatcher and the undercover officers. The sergeant clicked in and said to the dispatcher, "I'm advising you to tell them to come and answer the door." Well, once the sergeant comes on and makes that decision, then it comes out, it's out of the dispatcher's hand. She's covered. The call taker's covered. So I tell the girls, "Go down and answer the front door," because that's how it's relayed. She's dispatching the run with officers in place. I'm on the phone. Tell them to come down and answer the door. They come downstairs, answer the door, and as soon as the door opens, you hear on the call, "Who the fuck is that?" And apparently, the girls had had a car in their driveway with the doors unlocked with a garage door opener in it. Someone hit the garage door opener, opened the garage door multiple times, and was in their house and was now standing in their kitchen behind them, which then turned into a horrific fight. They went out the back door, and ultimately the perpetrator was shot and killed in the backyard of these girls' home. And none of that, none of that was ever reported to the media. All that was reported to the media was that there was a breaking and entering, and I'm not going to say the name of the police department, but they showed up, caught the suspect, and shot him. Not that they put these girls in harm's way and there was all of this internal struggle going on. They keep it out of the limelight. And so when people listen to officers tell how something went or how something happened, you believe them. So when we're talking about all of this, this is for the people who think that law enforcement would never lie to you. They do. It's called self-preservation. And sometimes it's minute, but sometimes it has massive repercussions. For example, the situation that I just spoke of, I would say it's minute details because the girls were safe and the perpetrator unfortunately was killed, but he was stopped. However, what if it would have gone the other way? What if that person in their home who was behind them took them by blade at the throat as a hostage? What if the two girls would have been grabbed before they opened the front door and kept as hostage? Think about that. Think about how that story would have played out. And if you want to know why law enforcement lies or covers things up or pretends they give you a fake story, it's reasons like that. That's why. The two girls were it was years ago. It was girls that, were they called 911 and I answered the phone. So that is why all of this is important, especially for those who believe that we're crazy, we're out of our mind, because none of these law enforcement officers would make up such a thing. So another look, really quick, at the route that the unknown male took if he was coming from Whiteman Drive. Look at the distance here that he would have traveled out of his way for what? For what? There's not a store. I'm telling you, I've drove this. There is not a store. This is all farmland. And Rick Allen knew the area. He did. He worked out on the trails under Dan McCain. He passed Ron Logan's property. He passed the cemetery, only to pull over and park at the CPS building. For what? He didn't. And we are stuck with Dan Doolin's testimony. We are stuck with Dan Doolin telling us what Rick Allen said 8.5 years ago. It's not written down. And don't get me started on the tip either, because I have a couple clips that I'm going to play, not today, but coming up, as to why this is a joke. It's really a joke. Okay. So any questions about any of that? And I need to kind of bump forward fast here. I want to see if where we go from here. Okay. I'm going to check. I'm just catching up on the chat really quick, guys. Yes, hit that like button and subscribe, please. And if you're not a member of the channel, please become a member, because I'm also working on a huge deep dive on a case. Maybe some of you are familiar with it, but to me, it is parallel to the Delphi case. And no, it's not Stephen Avery. It's very parallel. And I have a lot of information that I've collected on that case, including crime scene photos, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do parts of it public, and I'm going to do crime scene and other horrific photos and things like that during members only. So if you're not a member, become a member, please. So hold on, guys. I'm just getting caught up here. No, it's not Lyric and Elizabeth. No, I wish I had a lot more of their case file, but I don't. So Anna says, with the longer route, the prosecution could argue that an offender was checking parking or areas to see how many people might be present. But many, including Kelsey, have described multiple vehicles. Yes. And that is why it's important to know that Rick Allen knew the area And if he would have taken this route, you would have thought it was to park at a place where he would have better access. Why park at the I mean, he's literally parking clear out here. Only you see where that 11-minute 6.1 miles mark is? That is about the area of Ron Logan's property. To only have to walk all the way down, back, across the Monon High Bridge. Like, he was willing to go that far and leave himself exposed? I don't think so. Tell you Heather Heather Swinson said, "Tell us what case." I don't want to yet. I want it to be a surprise. Um, yeah, Callie, he did say that at that point in time, supposedly, or at one point in time, that Mears had stopped allowing parking. Okay, so let me back up and, geez, let me see, where do I want to go first? No one knows how the plan to the Monon High Bridge developed. No one knows because that wasn't what no one, no one, not even law enforcement or Rick, none of them ever said that was the plan to go to the Monon High Bridge. It literally all kind of unfolded um, at trial. You know, that he went and bought beer and, you know, had 3 beers. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just not, that's, so if the unknown male had went and got beer, when you've got all of the witnesses at the number one trailhead saying he's 5'10" or taller, 3 beers ain't doing shit. We don't have not one witness in this group one, group two, or group three, identifying anybody that looks even remotely close to Richard Allen. Hey guys, show some love to Michelle. She's gifted 20 case by case memberships. Thank you, Michelle. So now I'm going to get into a couple of what I would call, what again I would call sidebars, things that I'm going to throw in here. And I'm going to start with one thing that really pissed me off, simply because I think it's been something that was forgotten about, like a lot of things, that going back through clips and all that shit. I started off listening to this video. This video, let me get my pen and stuff out here. Okay, this video that I'm about to play was posted on February 26th of 2022. And I want you guys real quick for me in the chat, in case something's going over my head here. I want you to tell me in chat when you heard the audio, the full audio of the BG video. When did you hear that? Was it 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, or when Luke and those helping him released it on the Justice for Rick Allen website? So 1, if you heard it before. 2, if you heard it when the BG video was released, when you heard what was actually said. Not what was said at trial, but what was actually said. I've got 2 2s. 2, if it wasn't until after trial when Luke and them released the video, or if you had heard it before. A lot of people, so far, everybody said too, that you heard it after the trial when the whole video was released and you could hear what was said. So that's why going back through all my stuff, and I come across this, which was posted in February 26th, 2022. The video itself is an argument presented by the creator of the video about somebody having access to this whole video. Hey, Andy, how are you? That's okay, Andy. Thanks for stopping in, sweetie. But so this this video, that's basically what he's talking about. And I've got 5 or 6 videos uploaded, so and I've got them all time stamped for me to go to them. So let me get to his video, and then I'm going to talk about why it's important, or at least why when I listened to it, it was important to me going along with this whole February 13th timeline.
'30th of 2020. And
okay, hang on.
it links, I have a link to the last time Anna Williams did an interview concerning the Delphi murders apparently was September 30th of 2020. And it links, I have a link to an example of it. It may have been done before that, but that's the last time an interview is claimed to be done with her. Not 2022. Next, the audio signal that you can get the download of that would be the least altered, the oldest, and the most likely not to be corrupted or altered or edited. By the way, all subsequent versions say they're edited. Of the audio recording from the Delphi case that's commonly called the Down the Hill recording, I've put up copies of and put links to, and it's not available on the police website now because they'd rather have you listen to the one that they've cleaned up, but it causes more distortions. And
USA Libertarian, my girl or my boy, I don't know who they are, but if they're a liberal, I love them. Waptech, yes, that's who this is. This is Waptech. He's got a handful of videos, and what he's talking about right now is someone has the full 41 to 43 second video, and they have been working on editing the audio. I'm going to let this play for just a minute, and then I'm going to jump to the important part.
that recording has certain characteristics and lasts a certain number of seconds long. The claim I've got now in my comment section is that there's a 41-second long version of it, plus the part that says down the hill. And there's a claim or an assertion of using this trigger word, encrypted. The audio signal contains encrypted data, or is it just encoded? And this was supposed to be last week. And of course, when I look this up, I don't find anything about it. No one gave a citation because refusing to offer where the hell you're getting your ideas from or your claims or trolling content, depending on what it is, depending on who did this or said this. By not giving me a citation, you can keep me from evaluating it.
Okay, now I'm going to skip to the important part, and then I'm going to explain why I feel it's important. Now, remember, this video was posted on February 26th of 2022.
but a real interview with a real person, so someone faking being someone, is September 30th, 2020. The only place I can find anybody claiming to have a 41-second plus audio file with the words down the hill in it are people who are sitting there manipulating it over and over again from an MP3 encoding or something else off of YouTube, which is not how you do this. The WAV file is horrible. It's a shitty way to do it, but it's a million times better than doing an MP3 or whatever they were using. And again, do they tell you where they get the file from? Do they show you on the screen? What software are they using? What exactly did they do to alter it? Now, I was kind of slipshod in mine, but all I said was the parts where the person talked, I cut those parts out, put the pieces back together, looked for any zero crossing points and made sure that they went in at the right angle so that it would not make a click, which would be distracting. I then looked for any audio sections that are way too loud or way too soft and tried to compensate them to where they're at least within a certain range to where it would be, a kind of a band. And then I equalized all the audio as volume level so it'd be as loud as possible. So if there was anything in the audio recording, you would have a less distracting experience trying to hear words, noises, the click of a gun someone claims to have heard. Or this path goes no further, which is obviously not in the audio recording either. And
this path goes no further, which is obviously not in the audio recording. So, somewhere, someplace, someone knew back in February, on February 26th of 2022, that in the audio, it said, this path goes no further. And in full-blown commentary, we hear Libby say, this is the path that we go down. There's no path here. This is the path that we go down. So that tells me that what was presented at trial not only was fabricated, but a bold-faced lie. And if Anna, according to this interview right here, was discussing this in September, go back to the beginning where he's talking about this.
Concerning the Delphi murders, apparently, was September 30th of 2020.
September 30th of 2020 is where this ordeal with this video originated, with that verbiage that this man in this video is claiming is not true. But yet you cannot discuss this is the path, or there's no path here. This is the path that we go down. That audio wasn't completely articulated then in September of 2020 to be that be a gun. That be a gun that we now know is not on this audio whatsoever. And then it was testified to at trial. The jury heard that be a gun. She did not say that be a gun. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be honest, when the BG video first came out, I had such a preconceived idea of what I was about to watch. I mean, I'll never forget where I was when that video came out. It's like, I'll never forget where I was on the day of 9/11. But for a day and a half, you couldn't tell me that fucking video didn't say that be a gun, because I was trained to believe that that's what was on the audio, that be a gun. We've heard this bullet, we've heard this, Sig Sauer weapon, all of this since Rick Allen was arrested. In my brain, that's why for me, it's very important that I do not influence Sergio in any way about his analysis, because I don't want him to have, human beings are human beings. I don't care how much expertise you have. I don't want to press upon him my opinion or my interpretation or the things that I know that he doesn't know. It's not fair. I want him to analyze organically, basically. But when I heard this, going back and I heard this, I thought, you sons of bitches. Somebody back then in September of 2020, whether it be Anna Williams herself or someone relatively close to her that he's speaking of, who had access to this video and audio, are discussing what it actually says. And he believes, I can only assume that this individual on this video is believing that it's not so because law enforcement's claimed it's not so. So that was very frustrating for me. So there's that. Now, that kind of puts you in the mindset of the day, of the scenario where we are. Now, I want to, before we go into the next phase of this, I want to talk about if you guys remember correctly, Betsy Blair and Sarah Carball was described as bookends, remember? Betsy Blair was the beginning, Sarah Carball was the end. And that's important because both of those bookends timelines really are about to be shattered. Not because the witnesses are bad witnesses, but it's the details that their statements were injected into. It's the details and the storyline that their statements were injected into with the preconceived notion that this is exactly what happened. So, oh boy. Now we're gonna watch a video. I think it's maybe 4 to 5 minutes long. And this is the best video that I've been able to capture that shows all of us what in that in that time of year, with the trees bare, the water somewhat high because of weather, whether it be rain or snow melt or whatever. And this region, okay, I'm not saying that this video is the actual path. If, that little word with the big meaning, if the girls actually crossed the creek and were driven up the bank on the other side to the crime scene. I'm not saying that this video is an exact replica of that path. What this video does is it shows you the terrain. And that's important for me to be able to find this and show to you, because this is going on during broad daylight. This is going on when I have at least 6 to 10 people around the bridge. Before, during the abduction, and after. And I want you to look at this terrain and think about, as a young girl with one man, gun or no gun, pursuing them, chasing them. We haven't even gotten into the phone data yet. But I can tell you that it appears to me when you do it methodically, what this phone data is showing us is that these girls were undressing and walking and walking and undressing and then crossing the creek and then getting to the crime scene, and that's it. Doesn't make sense. We're going to get there, but all of these little factors make good valid points, but I want you to see the terrain and the landscape around, because it's important to think about the hysteria that had to have been going on. The Whether a girl was screaming or crying, what had to have been transpiring in the, and I'm going to use the word scurrying, if you are to believe the state's theory. That's what would have been happening. The girls would have been scurrying. They would have been in panic mode, freaking the hell out, trying to get up the embankment. And everybody's out there on the trails enjoying their peaceful day. No one hears this. So we're going to watch this terrain, and I want you to think about what you're looking at. And then I want you, this video is not shot during a sunny day, but I want you to think about it being a sunny day, people crossing the bridge, two girls supposedly at the south end of the bridge using the restroom, literally right where Libby turns off the video of the bridge guy video. Right there, two girls are using the restroom when all of this is supposed to be transpiring. Let me also add really quick that this would not be considered 2-level elevation changes, just even in this vicinity. Do you guys see where he's heading with his camera? Yeah, crunch, crunch, crunch. Not silent at all. Now add two hysterical girls who are trying to stifle whether they're screaming or crying, trying to stifle in the chaos. But this is part of the terrain. And Lynette, no, you have no idea how beautiful this area is. It's a horrific tragedy that this place is stained. It's a beautiful area. But he's heading up to 300. So where are we? We are at the cemetery. So this would be, if you're a bridge guy and it happened the way that the state claimed, this is probably the route that one of the quickest routes you would have taken, okay, up this ravine to the cemetery out to 300. And you're so fucking smart to have parked all the way down at the CPS building. I mean, that was a brilliant move to park all the way down there. So you only had to walk that long distance, okay? But at the same time, there are people that I have on record who searched this same ravine path on the 13th from the cemetery back down, from the north end of the bridge around that ridge line through here to this area right here. So this guy is so freaking brilliant that he parked where he parked. He came out here at the cemetery only to walk out onto 300 and pass everybody congregated out there at the mirror slot. And he left no fucking DNA. He's a mastermind. A brilliant mastermind. At almost 50 years old, this unknown bridge guy that was labeled to be Rick Allen waited until he was 50 years old to attempt to pull this mastermind off with the most amateur bullshit leading up to and after. Yet during, it's the most methodical, planned out crime scene you've ever seen. And it was Rick Allen. So now we're going to go in reverse. I'm sure some of you have watched this on my video upload, but I'm going to play it again anyway. You're welcome, you guys. Thank Michelle N. Michelle N is the hot mama who is always gifting stuff on here. I love her to death. Appreciate her so much. So now we're going to watch it in reverse. And this is a different path. And once again, I find myself in a pinch situation because every single time I do one of these lives and I present a different part of this case, I feel like I'm not even going to say that. I am, like I said at the very beginning of this live, we are starting with, every time we start a live and we go over these presentations, we're starting with a clean slate. Because I don't want to hold myself to, and I think that's what a lot of creators have done or made mistakes doing, is holding themselves to a particular theory or a particular scenario or person of interest. I've never done that, simply because this several cases that I've covered, I learned not to do that because shit turns on a dime and you've got to weigh all the evidence. And in this particular case, like there's not a lot of cases out there. There's a lot of cases where you've got wrongful convictions, but there's not a lot of cases that are this vast of, you're dealing with a small area, 3,000 or less population, a small amount of square mileage, and you have more POIs in this case than you do in a murder case in the city of New York with a kingpin drug dealer. This case is a case where you've got to dig, and ultimately, I blame the Carroll County Sheriff's Department for this case getting out of hand, for their egos, their self-serving purposes, to not allow outside sources with better means, more experience, to come in and help. Then they allowed this case to go completely sideways. And now we are stuck dealing with, are we dealing with corruption? Has the corruption and the ego seeped in because law enforcement doesn't want you to know how fucked up of a job they did? Or are we really dealing with some real big criminals here who are covering their ass? All of those issues on the table, Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Tobe Lesenby, Tony Liggett, Steve Mullins, Shane Evans, Nick McClelland, the judges, they all have to take responsibility for the state of this case. They all do. And I'm with you, Amy G. I think it's corruption. Yeah, BG wore Rochelle. BG wore magic. He wore waterproof magic clothes. So now we're going to go backwards. And the important part about this going backwards, and when I was talking about, I always feel like I'm being counterintuitive on myself because, hold on a second. There we go. I'm being counterintuitive because, I had Reese Davis on the channel who gave us his version of what he was told. And I by no means doubt what he is saying to be truthful. But you have to look at the big picture. And when you look at what he was told, you have to weigh that against factual provability of evidence. That's why this video to me is important, because Reese was told that a wheelbarrow was used to move Libby's body. And so now we're going to look at if that is even possible. From beginning to end, we're going to watch it together, and we're going to discuss the terrain and what that would look like in the middle of the night before daybreak. A young girl who's 5'4", 200 pounds, dead weight, wrapped in a tarp, going down to the crime scene. So I need you guys to watch and put your comments in the chat. This is going from the cemetery down the ridge line down to the crime scene. Now you see, the further that this individual goes with the camera, the rougher the terrain gets. Then you have to compile this with pitch black darkness, the fear of being caught, and according to Ron Logan himself in an interview, stated that the entire woods here was lit up like a football field. You can see the creek out there in the distance. At this point, I think he's gone beyond the crime scene. But that gives you an idea of so I believe he went beyond a little bit further past the crime scene, but that kind of gives you an idea of what the terrain looked like to get there from the cemetery. Um, oh my gosh, Callie has a good case that I would love to cover on here. So I'm going to ask for all of you magical people to grant me like 5 more days in the week. So I have more time to do more on YouTube. I love this. I love doing this kind of stuff. Um, yes, Callie has a really heartbreaking case that she's close to. I just started catching up on it, and it's kind of right up there with Summer Wells. So, what are your guys' thoughts about that video? Do you feel it's plausible that a wheelbarrow could make that trek? Um, hmm. You know, oxen's razor, sometimes they say, the quickest way to get to a point is usually a straight line or the most reasonable. That's sometimes the case. In this case, I don't necessarily believe that. Sorry, guys, I'm reading the chat. Occam's razor. Yeah, Occam's razor is definitely that is something that a lot of people think, they chalk up, um, you know, making it simple, and some things are not simple. So Lynette says, still think KK is involved. No way if you're Hulk Hogan. You mean if you're not Hulk Hogan? Yeah, Callie Pearson made the website for the Dior case. So Anna says a wheelbarrow would manage that terrain with a heavy load. Okay. Yes. Carla Ann. Ron Logan sprinted up that hill in his interviews. He was a farmhand. So Margaret says if Reese meant Libby and Abby were moved by a wheelbarrow, 2:30 a.m., not 2 p.m., or didn't know, assumed. If people searched and Libby and Abby were not there, but the shenanigans claimed at 2 a.m. is true, searchers blocked. I don't know. So here's what I've been able to pin down. And we're going to continue through the series, going through even more details. And I'm going to tighten this timeline up. I'm going to tighten up all the information. I cannot rule out, I'm going to say 60% of what Reese Davis has said he was told. Cannot rule it out. I do believe Ron Logan's property, whether it be knowingly to him or unbeknownst to him, His property was used. And when I say his property, I mean that area south of the bridge, southeast of the bridge. I'm talking the cemetery, Logan's property, leading out to 300 by Ron Logan's property. I do believe that was the in and the out. However, I don't believe this crime is as simple as the state wants everyone to believe based on where it's one thing to, when you read something and you go, oh my God, I never thought of that. Oh my God, that's new news. But when you sit down and you map it out and you are stuck with about 25 pages of information it's like a swirling freaking tornado, all honing in that specific area, the north end of the bridge, under the bridge, the south end of the bridge, the private drive, the crime scene, the cemetery, Ron Logan's property, the Mears lot. If you can't eliminate it, then you have to include it. And it's very frustrating because just when you think that you have the aha moment, you don't. So let me pull this back up. Now, I've been on here for 2.5 hours. Do you guys want me to keep going? Because I have more, or I can wait for the next episode. What do you guys want me to do? Just put keep going in the chat, or just put next. All right, everybody's saying keep going. Okay, so this is where I feel like we've all lost our way. We've all forgotten. And I've been saying it and saying it and saying it that I feel like the answers to this case lie in the beginning. And I'm talking taking the Tina Rodell story, the meth lab stories, the Cheyenne, the Kokomo crew, all of the above, and pulling it all into one small little compartment and dissecting it. And how many of you, and this is important, so I don't feel like, because American Night Mom says I'm never leaving. Okay. So how many of you, and be honest, so I know how in depth to go, how many of you have followed my Ashley Garth case coverage? And you've followed along with my in-depth deep dives into the Paladinos? Just put a 1 in the chat if you have. Balls deep, I have. Keep it coming, guys. Let's go. Let's move. Let's go. Tell me, how have you? Okay, Snaggle Mama says she hasn't. Okay. Chris Crook, okay. So, now remember when I said earlier on, well, Lynette and a couple of y'all need to catch up. You might want to go back and watch from the beginning. And it's important It's important for me that you do, simply because, one, I'm a major advocate for Ashley. And when this whole story comes to full, like, when it all comes full circle, um, you'll understand what she as a young woman was up against and who she was up against. So now let me go back to what I said earlier about EC. And I'm going to try to make all of this make sense to a certain degree as we go forward. So remember when I said earlier, in group 3, we have the 3 girls that nobody spoke to and that have yet to become public. And I said, I'm not going to dox, not dox, but not reveal who RH and MM are. But EC was different. Now I'm going to tell you why EC is different. And I'm going to tell you her name because I've spoken to her on multiple of occasions. Her name is Emily Collier. She lives over in the area of she lived over in the area of 600 in Monticello, Indiana, which is literally a stone's throw away from Delphi. She was at an individual, so in the Ashley Garden, and please bear with me because it's all going to make sense. Are you guys listening? Stop chatting. Emmett, yes. So, I've spoken to her numerous times. She actually wrote some letters to Ashley Garth's attorney. So on March 25th, when Garrett showed up and attempted to attack Ashley Garth, Ashley took off to a friend's house. I'm not going to say his name, but he attacked her, was choking her unconscious. Emily Collier is the female who barged in when the men in the house would not and tackled Garrett off of Ashley and forced Garrett to take Ashley to the hospital. Garrett then, because she made such a scene, Emily Collier made such a scene, Garrett took Ashley to the White County ER. I have the 32-page medical report from that visit. So Ashley has been in the Indiana Women's Prison, and about a year and a half ago, Emily Collier was transferred from another prison to the prison that Ashley's at, the Indiana Women's Prison. And she came up to Ashley and said, and this is all documented, and she said, "Do you know who I am? Do you remember me?" And Ashley said, "No." She said, "I was there that day that Garrett almost killed you. I'm the one who pulled him off." And Ashley was like, "Are you kidding me?" So Ashley called me. She told me the story. And I'm like, I need to talk to her. So we arranged for me to get on the phone with her, Emily Collier, and I spoke with her. And she gave me the whole story about what happened. It's separate from this case, but it's involved with Ashley's case. So she's telling me, this is what happened. This is what I did. And yeah, I'm here now, and I'm going to be in prison for a couple of years. I think she's in there on some drug charges, yada, yada, yada. So I contacted Ashley's attorney, figured out what needed to be done. And although this is not technically new evidence, because the ER visit that Ashley was taken to, it was discoverable during her trial, but her attorney never even pulled it up. So it's technically not considered new evidence, but it could be valuable for a retrial. So Emily wrote to Ashley's attorney explaining all of the details. So once she was writing the letter, I was still communicating with her about how to get, get the letter to John, blah, 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 blah. So then she starts telling me a couple of things. Now, for those of you who have covered or have listened to Ashley's case, this is the important part about this group 4 that we're about to talk about. Emily proceeds to tell me that she lived over by 600, which is near Hodges Drive. And for those of you who have followed my coverage on Ashley's case, you know that Hodges Drive is the Paladino compound. So she proceeds to tell me that after all this went down and Nicole Bowen, that Garrett murdered, was killed, she had gone over to the Paladino compound to get meth. She used meth. And there was a couple of people who lived, I'm not going to go into all of that, but basically they had claimed that Talitha Beckley, who was also involved with Garrett Kurtz, Jason Paladino, and Nicole Bowen's murder, Talitha Beckley had told and shown people on that property about a video of Garrett killing Nicole by himself without Ashley. Can't prove it, can't track it down, can't say it's true, but that's what Emily is telling me. She then proceeds to tell me that she had gone over there a third time to get high with Talitha Beckley, smoking meth. And while this is what she told me. And now remind you, this is on a recorded line. Okay. So if she's lying, it's recorded if someone wants to dig this up. She said that she went over there for a third time to smoke meth with Talitha Beckley. Talitha Beckley told her, hey, if you go down that hallway under the floorboards outside the bathroom, you're going to find evidence of the Delphi murders. So there's that. Remember that. Then, for those of you who followed Ashley's case, know that I tracked down the author of the cryptic note. The cryptic note was something that Sunny Justice on Criming Shame pushed for about 2 years. It was a picture on a whiteboard of a drawing that Jason Paladino posted on his Facebook. And it was being claimed that Ashley Garth was the author of the cryptic note. If you go back on my timeline, on my lives, you're going to find the video where I tracked down the real person who wrote that note and left it at his house. And I had her on my channel. Her name, and here's me not holding anything back. Her name is Kyra Dowdy. Kyra Dowdy. Dowty. I did a live with her. She's on my channel about the cryptic note. Scroll down on my live stream playlist. You'll find it. Listen to it. There's that. Through talking with her, I find out that her mother, while I'm on the phone with her, her mother's in the background, yelling into the phone how she used to date Mark Paladino. And how they all felt the Paladinos were involved in the Delphi case. And right after the murders, Jason, Mark, and CJ left for California. Okay, that's not the first time I had heard that. You know, it's something that's been going around. It's what Garrett Kurtz had said. He claimed that, Jason was ordering him around and, it was Jason's order to kill Nicole. And he thought they were involved in the Delphi murders, et cetera, et cetera. Then we find out that there's a tip that was called in. This is fact. This is not bullshit. This is fact. There was a tip called in. It's in the database that Derek German bought a large quantity of meth, aka ice, from Mark Paladino and never paid for it. There's that. Then I find out through speaking with Kira Dowdy, after multiple weeks of conversing with her, and her divulging the information about the train farm. If you've not followed all of my episodes, go back and watch. The train farm took me 6 months to track that damn thing down. But throughout speaking with Kira Dowdy, she says, I need you to talk to my sister. She knows more about all of this than I do. It took me a minute, but I had to track it down. I still have the text messages. Going to get into them down the road on this series, but the reason I'm doing this is this is a prelude to what is to come. So she gives me her sister's number. I start corresponding with her sister. Her sister begins to tell me, yes, I've known this for a long time. Her words, not mine. The Paladinos were involved, and I stand by that to this day. They took off to California, and just so you know, me and my baby's father lived at the Paladino compound in late 2016 through 2017 during the time of the murders. Well, why is that important? It's important because her baby's father is a Mr. Ingalls, whose brother was married to Cheyenne. Now, we're going to listen to this. I'm sorry for being dramatic, but I have to be poignant when I speak of this because for 3 years now, I have been pushing this narrative and I've walked away from it numerous times because I can't prove it. And then now, all of a sudden, all of this comes floating to the top, and I'm going, this is bullshit to ignore. It's bullshit to ignore. So going forward, everybody's saying, holy wow. It is crazy. It is crazy. Hold on one second, guys. I have to go back down and let my old man out again. He's barking. Warlon, you're right. Cheyenne, it's all a fuckery. It's a freaking effery. Give me 1 second, guys. I need to go let him out so I can keep going. Talk amongst yourself. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. So how about some Pacers? Come on, Weircat. You want to be a mod, you gotta run the show when I'm taking a 5-second break. Come on now. Okay, so who is Cheyenne? Cheyenne is from Monticello. Cheyenne was a witness at the trial. She has someone who has been in the spotlight since day one. Cheyenne reportedly was out on the bridge anywhere from 3 o'clock until 4 o'clock. She had a lot of things to say in the beginning. Then she started getting doxxed, and then she removed herself from the internet, yada, yada, yada. So, what we're going to do right now, this is going to be from here until the end of the live. We're going to go through a couple of things to gear up for the vault part 7/7.5, 7.2, I guess. This is this to me was a big deal. And this is part of group 4 that we haven't really even dove into yet. So real quick, I want to hold on.
To see the second sketches. We've run this first sketch.
We're going to talk about why all of this makes sense if you read between the lines. And I am really not trying to take a molehill and make it a mountain. What I'm trying to do is show you why it's important. So this was an interview done like 4.5. Well, it was done right after the press conference in 2019. Okay, discussing the sketches. So you've got, if you are watching, you need to watch because there's some reading to this video. If you are not able to watch and only listen, then you're going to have to come back and watch it when you can. Okay.
We were told when we were brought in to see the second sketches, we've run this first sketch. We feel like we know who this person might be, or we've cleared up this particular person.
So for those of you I take that back. For those of you who are only able to listen, I'm going to read this portion of the video. This is where Anna Williams is explaining what they as family members were told by law enforcement about the change of direction in the case and the changing of the sketches. She says, so they were very clear. This is a post by Anna Williams on social media in 2019, October of 2019. So they were very clear that the first sketch was a person of interest. The second one was released because they had cleared the first person. The first person being the old guy bridge sketch. That is what Anna Williams is claiming they were told by law enforcement. That press conference was held in April of 2019. This is Anna coming out and speaking against people questioning the scenario in October of 2019. Like, what the hell is going on? Why do we have 2 sketches? Again, so they were very clear that the first sketch was a person of interest. The second one was released because they had cleared the first person. I think law enforcement did things in a manner they felt they needed to. I wouldn't second guess them for a minute. So no, I'm not going to tell the professionals they were wrong. This is the epitome of trusting people that you should be able to trust. Anna here is standing up against the wave of backlash against law enforcement for them changing the direction and telling the people why law enforcement told her, the mother of her dead child, why they had to change course. So a portion of this is blacked out. They said it in a briefing, I'm sure. They had to have some kind of an explanation. So the bridge guy was cleared by law enforcement. This is a question by someone on her social media. The photo Libby took was not the one responsible. I'm confused. Anna, is the person in the second sketch the one they feel is responsible? I understand why they did not release his identity, because they didn't want to make it known.
And now we're going to look at another person that other people also noticed might have been there that day, and now we'd like to talk to that person. I'm going to say mid-April of 2019, I believe, is when that sketch came out. We had the second big press release of the sketch, and we'd already had the audio and video at that time of the different things available, and that was when the sketch came forward. And at that time, they said, we're changing directions. Now we want to see who else may have seen this person, because we've talked everybody else concerning the first person.
Had to let that play. Thank you, Radar, for this video. Again, I told you, some of the clips I'd be playing today weren't things I created, but things that I have compiled over the years. Rochelle D, we're going to get there to the connection to the Paladinos. So we have the opinion of law enforcement about the bridge guy sketch, them changing direction, and what the families were told, which then leads me to this next clip, this very small clip. But for those of you who are new to the case and may not know, I see people in the chat asking about who Cheyenne is. So this next little video, and remember, this is all a prelude into the next segment of the vault. Cheyenne is one of the only people who has come forward publicly. She's the only one who testified at trial out of this group, which is, I feel, a major disservice to justice. And I can't believe that that the defense didn't pull in everybody else. Oh, thank you, Rochelle. Thank you so much. But Cheyenne is the only one who testified, and she's the only one who ever reported seeing another individual who is considered to be a major person of interest, and that would be Daniel Pearson. And the story surrounding Daniel Pearson is a complicated one, and I have to throw in there that the importance of somebody being protected by law enforcement, and why they would be protected by law enforcement could be because Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because Daniel Pearson's father is Scott Pearson. This is a prelude, remember. Scott Pearson was a reserve deputy for the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. So, let me introduce you to Daniel Pearson. Just a quick little snippet.
To a resemblance.
Hold on.
You don't want them to look at both sketches anymore. You only want the newly released sketch, correct?
That's correct. But remember, a sketch is not a photograph.
Right.
It's something similar to a resemblance.
Heidi Lucas, you have to be watching the screen right now.
But remember, a sketch is not a photograph.
Right.
It's something similar to a resemblance.
So if you're just listening, you need to be watching the screen right now or come back on the replay and watch it. This is kind of a merging of faces between Daniel Pearson and the young bridge guy sketch.
But remember, a sketch is not a photograph.
Right.
It's something similar to a resemblance.
Yeah. So now I want you guys to not chat right now. I want you to listen. And I want you to think about everything that I just went over regarding Emily Collier and Talitha Beckley, those statements, those accusations. And before I play this next clip, which is going to be about a 15-minute clip, if you have any questions, ask them now. And I'm just going to tell you that this has all been covered on my channel previously in Ashley's case. This stuff that I'm talking about right now about the Ingalls, the Paladino compound, being involved in Delphi, all of that I have been discussing for the past almost 3 years. And I feel a little vindicated because this, and maybe most of you have already heard this interview. I, for whatever reason, had not. And maybe if I did, when I heard it, I wasn't privy to everything that I'm privy to now, which makes it make sense. Let me see. I'm with Paulette Hansel. So, do you guys have any questions before I let this next clip play? Paulette, I'm not sure what you're referencing. What's so funny? Sugar Moon Love, welcome. Paulette, who's paid weak people? I'm confused. Thank you, Precascent. Okay, well, I'm gonna do my best to keep an eye on the chat. You guys keep it simple, keep it clean. It is what it is. Nothing that I'm showing you is anything that is self-created. It's all out there. It's all stuff that can be retrieved. You just have to be able to put it all together and make sense. Okay. Not Shabug's not recently. She was actually just transferred out of the Indiana Women's Prison. I'm talking about Emily Collier. She was just transferred out of the Indiana Women's Prison. She wasn't even actually in Ashley's area. I think they passed each other during some like holiday event or something. And I'm not going to go into detail, but it was a shady little game we had to play because I'm not on Emily's call list. And at the women's prison, it's a very ridiculous process to get on the call list. It took me like almost 4 months to get on Ashley's. So it was a process to get her on the phone through maneuvering through other people's tablets, to say the least. But she has recently been moved over to Rockville, which it appears she'll be there until she's released. So I have not spoken to her recently, but I can reach out to her. And yeah, I do have a rapport with her. She was very eager to help. She was very forthcoming. I mean, it was kind of a saving grace that she even approached Ashley and said, "Hey, I was there that day. Do you remember me?" And Ashley's like, "No, I don't. I was almost being killed." But she came forward and she was willing to write Ashley's attorney a letter, which she did. So I have no reason to second guess what she is saying. And at the time that I spoke with her, she had, and I had no reason to believe that this whole story here would come full circle. So, Mother of Dragons, does anyone know what? I want to make sure I'm caught up. I'll definitely reach out to her again. And she's more than she's more than willing to talk. So, so you guys kind of see where I'm going with this. I know that Daniel Pearson was a major person of interest years ago. And I think luckily for him, he fell off. And when I look at his background and his connections, I see that, his father was a deputy, the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, who protect their own. And he might have been hands off at the time. But I need you guys to listen to this, not chat. Seriously, I need you to listen to this and listen to how this is playing out. And What I'm about to play you is from, I believe, 2021. It's an interview done by True Crime Garage with Skip Jensen. It's called Under the Bridge, discussing this very this very blocked off time spot of February 13th.
And this is according to Kelsey, who dropped them off at the trailhead. And the Snapchat picture of Abby was posted at 2:07 p.m. on that day. And it's believed, based off of the evidence that we have, that being the still picture, which comes from the video, which was then released at a later date.
The still picture of Bridge Guy, yeah.
Correct. It due to the positioning of the sun, what we can see in that video, we can tell that the abduction took place between 2:20 p.m. and 2:40 p.m. that afternoon. So relatively quickly, things are moving very fast. The girls are dropped off, and less than an hour later, they are abducted. Less than a half an hour later, that picture is posted on Snapchat of Abby. It's kind of mind-boggling how we have this perpetrator lurking, waiting in the shadows, if you will, looking for potential prey. And it just so happens to line up with about the time that they're dropped off. And from my understanding, Skip, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's approximately about a half mile from the trailhead to the bridge itself, which two girls taking their time, maybe they went a roundabout way. There's two different options to get you to that Monon High Bridge. That time lines up. All those times really line up with about how long it would take someone on foot to get to that bridge. And when you say that this guy, your guy, has admittedly, his own words, place him at the crime scene at about the same time that the abduction and murders took place. And I do want to be clear, even though they're murdered at that location and left there, they were abducted. I mean, they were moved and corralled and directed by the killer where to go. For what reason?
We know that because we have audio evidence of that.
Correct. And we don't know for exactly what reasons, but you're saying this guy has placed himself there during this time frame. And the other thing that's key to hone in on at this point too, when we're discussing times on that day, is according to law enforcement, they believe whatever took place, because again, they're not telling us exactly what happened, whatever took place.
Okay. Just let me intervene here. Thierry, who says, I remember this, and I believe True Crime Garage got their asses spanked by Murder Sheet. No, that's not about the Under the Bridge podcast. That was about the book that was written and later down the line. This was from way back in the beginning. And this is not about whether you like True Crime Garage or not. This is about what a private investigator who later, years later, was hired by the defense team. And then for whatever reason, the court removed. This is about what he has to say about the individuals that he interviewed. That's what this is about. So don't waste your time in the chat making up your posting your opinions about all of that. I get it. We all get it. Just listen to the words that are being said, please.
Was done and over with probably relatively quickly, but at least by 5 p.m. that day.
Yeah, correct. Because that's the time frame that they say that the car was at the CPS building at the 2019 press conference. They led that off with that they were looking for the driver, which I thought was interesting, of the vehicle that was parked there from 12 to 5. I thought it was unusual. They asked for the driver. It seems like maybe they know about who the vehicle is. And that's something that we can get into a little bit. But let me say a couple of things that I think are important. One thing I've learned is that law enforcement and a perpetrator have 180-degree opposite agendas. And I'm not talking about just the simple fact that law enforcement wants to catch this guy, and this guy that, the perpetrator doesn't want to be caught. How that relates to this case is, and it goes back to what you were talking about the time, is law enforcement wants to place somebody there under that bridge near that crime scene between about 2:30 and 3:30 that afternoon. Okay. The perpetrator wants to be anywhere else but under that bridge between 2:30 and 3:30. Okay. And that's something I think that the listeners should keep in mind as we go along here, because there's been a ton of misinformation, deflections, false information put out. As we talk about that, you'll see some of that. Maybe people changing their time frames of when they were there, who they were with, where they parked, and things like that.
Well, it's hard to know because we're not from that area. We don't know how popular this park is. It's a day where there's no school. How many people do you think are at the park during the time of the murders?
It's hard to say. I've identified maybe 6 or 7. I know there's been people who've said they were up to 50 people. I don't buy that at all. I think there were just a few. I've identified 6 or 7.
So people put the time frame of the murders in between 2:30 and let's say 3:30, but we know that because the girls weren't responding and somebody was trying to pick them up, and this miscommunication would have started about 3:00.
Yeah, I think Libby's dad, Derek, had arrived and started walking the trails around 3:00.
Guys in chat, stop. You got to remember how long ago this was and what we knew back then. That doesn't change. In fact, what we knew back then was probably more factual than what we know now. Because all of the years of the theories, the conspiracy theories, the different POIs that ended up resulting in no arrests, not being connected at all, went nowhere. Please just listen. Just listen and ignore the facts that we know now to be a certain fact. But we're talking about the people who were there. Okay, that's what's important here.
Clock just after, and that was about the time they started realizing something was wrong.
Derek called Libby's phone at 3:11 that afternoon, and this is as he was getting close. He's driving in a vehicle to go pick up the girls. There was no set time when they were dropped off, what time they would be picked up. It was a roundabout time.
Right.
And the statement was, or always has been, that Derek would call Libby when he got close so they could meet him at the trailhead. And we know that call took place at 3:11. He's unable to get a hold of her. She doesn't answer the phone. He then arrives shortly after that 3:11 phone call and starts to walk the trails looking for the girls.
I think one of the important things is that where he parked is an area called the Mears lot, which is the same place that the girls were dropped off. It's just a small area, private area, but the locals knew it as a place they had easy access to the trails. There's the trailhead, like you said, is right there. So it's just a short walk to the bridge.
And it's called the Mears lot because the Mears family farm is
right across the street.
It's right across the street.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They may have owned portions of that additional land at one time.
Right. And it's an area that you can just get a few cars in at one time, 3 or 4, 5 maybe max. So it's just a small area, but the locals knew about it.
Well, and the importance of this being a small location, and like you said, it could only fit maybe 5 cars, is that your person of interest claims that around 3:00, his car would have been parked in that lot.
That's what time he said he arrived. Yeah. And he said he started walking slowly down the trail with a female.
But we haven't had any other eyewitness come forward and say that they saw your person of interest walking with this female. We haven't had anybody come forward and say that they saw them.
That's
correct. Well, to this
yeah, that's correct. Not anybody
about.
That has said anything publicly. I do believe that he was seen later on, but no, nobody has publicly said they saw him. Nobody's corroborated that.
And what's also odd about this one claim that your person of interest made is the time frame. He would have run into possibly Derek or possibly flannel shirt guy at the trailhead around this time period.
Yeah, like I said, when Derek got there, he started walking on the trails. He ran into an older gentleman who's referred to as flannel shirt guy, and asked him if he had seen two girls, and he said no, but there's a couple arguing under the bridge. So Derek took the other path, I guess, assuming that was not who he was looking for. So maybe the girls were on the other path.
One thing I've always wondered about here.
Okay, so let's be clear on that. And we've known this since day one, that Derek German was told by McCain, flannel shirt guy, that no, he didn't see two girls, but there was a couple arguing under the bridge. That has been the statement since day one. And because that's not what Derek German was looking for, he was looking for two little girls. He then did a U-turn, and instead of going to the Monon High Bridge, he started walking toward Freedom Bridge, looking for Abby and Libby.
Here, Skip, is there's actually two bridges, right? There's one that goes over the Indiana Hoosier Highway.
Yep.
What's that? The Freedom Bridge?
Freedom Bridge, yes.
Part of me wonders when he gets told by FSG, flannel shirt guy, do you have his name in front of you? I think he's been identified. I think we can just say his name.
Yeah, his last name is McCain.
And McCain, he was in charge of the
trails.
He was in the trails system there.
Correct.
So he's involved with the Parks and Rec or something of that nature. But so he speaks with McCain, and McCain says, I saw a couple arguing under the bridge.
I think you actually said I heard a couple arguing under the bridge.
And I'm with you. It could mean one of two things. Either he goes, okay, well, that's not the people I'm looking for, so I'll go this opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he just assumed the Freedom Bridge rather than the Monon High Bridge.
It's possible, but McCain was coming from that direction. So I think the assumption is that he had just been at the Monon High Bridge. Like I said, he asked, about two young girls. Somebody describing a couple they heard would not be the same description. So he said no, he hasn't seen them. So that part of it I think is fairly simple.
Well, in this case, there's so much information, and I think there's some misinformation that's being put out by certain people. And when you hear about this eyewitness, McCain, that talked with Derek at the trailhead, and he says that I heard an arguing couple roughly around 2:50 to 3 o'clock. To me, one of the things that people are missing is that would be roughly at the time that Abby and Libby are making contact with Bridge Guy. And we don't have the full audio tapes, so we don't know. And we don't know if those audio tapes have the evidence on there. Was there an argument? Did one of the girls start arguing with Bridge Guy? And if that is true, then around 3 o'clock, McCain did not hear an arguing couple. He heard Bridge Guy arguing with Abby and Libby.
Yeah, I think that's likely. I think one of the biggest questions that people have had in this case is why didn't anybody hear anything? Why didn't the girl scream? Why didn't anybody hear anything? Well, maybe they did. Maybe McCain heard something, but nobody's put that together like you just said.
So your person of interest, we know that he was there. He claims he was an eyewitness. He claims he's the reason for the first sketch that was released. He also claims that he enters the same parking lot that Derek parked in roughly about 3 o'clock. But then other times he has told sources and talked on the internet about being a part of the arguing couple, which would put him at the crime scene at 3 o'clock.
Correct. He also didn't come forward to law enforcement saying that he saw anybody, like I mentioned.
Okay, I see all the questions about the trailhead. So and unfortunately they call it trailhead or the trail split. Okay. So I said earlier that on my channel, I'm going to refer to trailhead number 1 as entering the trail out by Freedom Bridge. That's the start of the trail if you were going to walk the full distance of the trail to the Monon High Bridge. Trailhead number 1. Trailhead number 2, which the majority of the people within this case utilized, is the Mears lot. Trailhead number 2, which is also referred to as the split. Okay. So that's where a lot of people parked. That's where Abby and Libby entered from, was trailhead number 2, right there at the Mears lot, which is also right by the 501 trail going down. So when you come in from the Mears lot, which is the trailhead number 2, you walk directly in and you turn left onto the main trail and you go straight out to the Monon High Bridge. If you don't turn left and you go straight across, there is another path which goes in the same direction as going towards the Monon High Bridge, except it goes down. It goes way down to where at the end of it, you are basically on an area, flatland, next to the water's edge of Deer Creek. And if you look up, you're going to be looking up underneath the very beginning of the north end of the Monon High Bridge. I thought it was the 501. 505, 501, I thought it was the 501. It could be the 505, Amy G, but I thought it was the 501. Okay, Prescott said it's 505. Maybe it is the 505. I don't know why I have it in my head as the 501, but 501, 505. The reason they call it the intersection right there of the path is because you can go straight out to the Monon High Bridge, or you can go straight across and then go down to Deer Creek. So when he's talking about Derek German running into Flannel Shirt Guy says there's a couple arguing under the bridge. That's the area that he's talking about. But you have to keep listening and keep listening to the paths and the individuals crossed. And then we're going to get into the trial testimony of Cheyenne and McCain.
He was one of the witnesses to the first sketch until well after the video had been put out, at least a week. I think that kind of asked the question, why did you?
And by the way, what he's explaining is that Daniel Pearson, well after the 17th, which is when law enforcement released the image of the guy on the bridge. So on the 14th, when it was everywhere, okay, Daniel Pearson was out there on the trail and supposedly on the bridge on the 13th. On the 14th, when it was clearly headline news that these 2 little girls were missing, and then ultimately by 2:00 in the afternoon, it's all over the news. The bodies had been found. He did not come forward. He didn't come forward on the 16th. He didn't come forward on the 17th. He came forward about, I think he just said like 8 or 9 days later. And then when the old bridge guy sketch came out, Daniel Pearson publicly claimed he was the person who helped create the old bridge guy sketch. And that's simply not true.
If you saw somebody, he says he saw somebody dressed like BG was with a scarf over his face. If you saw somebody like that, why didn't you come, and 2 little girls were murdered that day, why didn't you come forward immediately? And he later recanted that statement.
Yeah, I have a couple problems with this person of interest. One, you're at the park roughly around the time that this family is looking for 2 missing girls. There's no witness that says he stayed to help. So what kind of person are you? What kind of canoe are you? I think our listeners know what I'm getting at. But on top of that, you're claiming that the day these girls were murdered, and you would have known that the next day, that you were at the park the same day these girls were murdered, and you saw a suspicious person. You're not coming forward to law enforcement for 7-8 days?
Well, he originally said he was with his girlfriend. Okay. He later changed that to a girl and he never mentioned her name, just told, apparently one of the stories that was out there was that he was part of a cheating couple. So that was the reason for maybe why it was so ambiguous about who he was with, was because he was saying that he was trying to keep it on the down low that he was with another girl.
Well, and that's really interesting because this person of interest, he's coming forward and saying, look, I'm the eyewitness. I saw Bridge Guy. I am the reason for the first sketch that is released. We now know that law enforcement is saying, hey, that sketch is secondary. Essentially saying, oh, well, we don't buy this eyewitness's account. At one point saying, well, I was at the parking lot roughly the same time Derek was there, but he didn't see me. And at some point I was there with my girlfriend. Now we know that's not to be true. So then he has to then go on and then tell people, okay, look, I wasn't there with my girlfriend. I was cheating on my girlfriend. And so therefore, but I was covering for that, which a lot of times eyewitnesses come forward and they lie to law enforcement and lie to the public because they were doing something bad. That necessarily doesn't make him a murderer, but my issue is we don't know who he claims he was with under that bridge. Key phrase there, under the bridge, which by definition, guys down the hill, under the bridge, anything under the bridge becomes a part of the crime scene. They found articles of clothing around that area under the bridge in the water. So we have this individual lying and constantly changing his story. But what does he do? He puts himself at that crime scene, and I don't believe anybody saw arguing couple. They just heard arguing couple. Arguing couple then equals Bridge Guy arguing with Abby and Libby equals that's the murderer. And he is putting himself in that position, that location, arguing with somebody, which we believe would be Abby and Libby. And that puts him at the crime scene. That makes him Bridge Guy.
Okay, now just remember, this is not about you liking True Crime Garage. This is about who's where and when. And after you watch this live, I'm going to make it homework that you go listen to Andrea Burkhart, Hidden True Crime, and Lawyer Lee's recap on the day that Cheyenne testifies. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit because it's going to get way better.
But you can tell your friends, family, and girlfriend, hey, by the way, I was there that day. Well, why were you there? Oh, well, I was taking a lunch break, or whatever reason you have to come up with to tell your friends and family.
This is on the 13th.
But you believe that you saw this individual and you're waiting 7 days to come and talk to law enforcement. It just seems very suspicious. It seems very shady. It doesn't, pass the sniff test, if you will.
Well, he said he came.
Aries. Good point, Mama. Good point. I remember that. This was back like right before Greeno went to jail, way back then. Greeno was on to Daniel Pearson. He had him on multiple lives on a recorded line. And literally, Daniel Pearson was getting caught up in so many lies talking about this crime, who he was there with. And there was a couple of times where he accidentally slipped and admitted to being involved. And then Greeno went to jail. That channel was shut down, and all that audio, all those videos were lost. And that's why I say we forget what transpired back in the beginning. And do not get hung up on, this is my theory. This is part of going back to the very beginning and focusing on the elements of this crime that have been whitewashed, pushed aside, and forgotten about over the past 8.5 years. This shit is important. These connections are real, and they're more real than what we know now. And just remember, I haven't even gone into Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall and Elvis Fields. But within all of this, it's got to get shaved down. 55 people and their mom times 10 times Sunday did not commit this crime. It's got to be narrowed down. But reviewing it all right now is what we need to be doing as a process of elimination. And I will reiterate and make it clear that as of February 13th, 2017, Daniel Pearson did have a problem with meth.
Forward after the video had been released and said, that's the guy I saw that day.
Yeah. So when exactly is this photo or video released after the crime?
They released the video, I think, 2 or 3 days after the murders, or the photo taken from the video.
Photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, the still photo was released a few days afterwards. It wasn't until that 2019 press conference that we get the video.
Right. And let's be clear about one thing.
If anybody has any information about weddings surrounding any of these people, you need to email it to me, casebykcase10@gmail.com. No joke.
Younger sketch, the second sketch that was released in 2019, was actually created 3 or 4 days after the murders. That was actually the first. The old Bridge Guy sketch was not released until July of 2017. So it was 5 months before the first sketch was released. Yet they had the sketch of the younger guy 3 or 4 days after the murders.
So the second sketch that was released, they had pretty quickly, but for some reason, this eyewitness comes forward 7 or 8 days after the murders, gives his account, and they go with his sketch.
At least, yeah. A week later, and saying that was the guy. It came after the picture or the photo was shown on television. Right. He said, that's the guy I saw. Again, I'm just curious why you wouldn't come, if you saw a suspicious guy there close to where 2 girls were killed, why you wouldn't come forward immediately.
Let's pretend that DP is Bridge Guy for a minute.
Okay.
He's coming forward now because he has an out. That sketch is his out, right? He doesn't want to come forward before, like you were getting to, that, oh, I don't want to come forward because they can identify me if I was there.
Right.
And so he sees the sketch. Doesn't appear to be him to him. So DP comes forward and says, yep, I would like to second that. I saw that person. I was there that day and saw that person there as well.
He saw the video. He saw the video or the photo, not the sketch. I think he became aware of the sketch. I've spoken with a friend of mine locally whose family has a brother who's in law enforcement that I think is an incredible source. And he told me that a lot of local people knew about this. There was a second sketch. They didn't know what it looked like, obviously, early on, but they knew very early on that there was a second sketch. Oh. I think how the timing works is he came after the second sketch had been created, hadn't been released yet, but the second sketch had been created, and that's when he came forward.
The second sketch that was actually released is actually the first sketch that they created.
Correct.
But how is law enforcement getting that information for the second sketch that was released?
From a witness that saw something that needed to be reported that day.
And Skip, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, Anna Lisette, I'm going to need you to find that information. I can't even stress to you right now how important that is. I need that information. And keep listening, guys. While you're waiting and while you're listening, please go out and hit the like button and the subscribe button. But this is about to get really interesting. Okay, this was just kind of the lead up to give you the background. But please listen. And Anna, if you've got information about wedding pictures, I need you to either direct me in the right direction where I can find them, or find the link where you saw them and send them to me, please. casebykcase10@gmail.com. Streets, who? Streets. Well, whoever got married, whoever you guys are talking about, had to have gotten married before February 13th. It has to be before February 13th. Yeah, it can't be after the murder. It has to be before.
It's been my understanding that the
So let's listen. Listen, this is important.
second sketch released is based off of eyewitness statements, description.
Right.
And the first sketch that was released was based off of the still photo, then later video evidence.
And it was a lot of people believe that the law enforcement's take on it is that it was created by multiple witnesses.
Okay.
So both of the sketches, or law enforcement says both of the sketches were created based on witness testimony. I agree with you, though. I think that the first sketch had the photo and video had some influence on it.
And your person of interest, which we are calling DP, I don't know if you guys picked up on the fact that Nick called the person of interest DP. We're calling him DP for legal reasons, obviously, and for safety reasons for himself. But he came forward and was telling people online he was responsible for the first sketch that was released.
That's correct. Yeah, again, I think that's a little bit unusual that, law enforcement usually insists that the witnesses don't say anything in cases like this. He certainly injected himself into the case by speaking on social media, kind of getting his story out there.
But both of his stories put him with another person at the trails that day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So where's this other person, right? I mean, if I'm law enforcement, that's my first thing. I'm going, okay, DP was there. And in story A, he's with so-and-so. And in story B, he's with someone else. Who are these people and do they exist?
Well, again, I think the reason for the change of the story was that he was with another girl and didn't want that information getting out. I think that was the excuse to get to the second story, which was the cheating girl. Yeah, I think that probably raised a red flag of some sorts, but he was considered a witness. They thought that law enforcement seeks witnesses. They know they need witnesses, and this guy came forward voluntarily, so they assumed he was said he and described something that looked like what they were seeing on video, so they had no reason not to believe him.
Okay, so this DP guy's there, and he's with this girl that he's cheating on his girlfriend with. I mean, that's pretty scumbag anyways, but we don't have this other girl that he was cheating on his girlfriend with coming forward and saying, hey, I was there with DP. And the other thing about it, too, is he's saying he was arguing with this girl that he was with under the bridge, again, putting himself and putting whoever this girl he was with, if there was even a girl there with him, under the bridge. Again, under the bridge. You have to understand that under the bridge or on the other side of the bridge is all a part of the crime scene. So he would be saying, not only was I cheating with this girl, but she was over at the crime scene with me about the same time that the killer would have been making contact with Abby and Libby, but yet they didn't see anything.
Again, he wasn't seen by anybody except one person, a girl named Cheyenne Ingalls, and she's the only one there that has corroborated seeing him.
Do we know where Cheyenne says she saw?
She never said exactly where she saw him. She said that her story, and I'll be kind of frank here, I haven't found anything that she said to be truthful. She originally said she got there at 3:50, changed her story to she got there at 2:50. She showed a picture of from the day, says that she said she went there to take pictures. She shows a picture and is taken around 3:00 of the bridge. She never said, she saw what time she saw him, just that she saw a heterosexual couple and also ran into a friend of hers who she said she didn't know was going to be there.
Well, the biggest point about DP being a person of interest is that he was at the park that day, claims to be in the vicinity of the bridge, and has changed his story multiple times. Now you have Cheyenne that is eyewitness to DP being there, but she's constantly changing her story as well. It's very, very suspicious.
I think there are four people involved involved in that equation. I think DP, Cheyenne, Cheryl, and a girl named Shelby. And I think that one of them has something to do with a car that was parked at the CPS building that law enforcement inquired about.
So who is this Shelby?
She's a friend of they're all friends. I know she went to law enforcement to tell them to kind of straighten out the vehicle situation. I think there was a lot of confusion about where everybody parked, what time everybody got there, whose cars were there. I think she went and
Okay, right here's another key factor where you guys need to pay attention, because this is from years ago, and he's talking about a Shelby. But at trial, we hear about two Shelbys, a Shelby Hicks and a Shelby Duncan. However, the name Cheryl L comes into play way back in 2017 at the very beginning, where people, including Tina Rodell, are accusing Cheyenne of lying about who she was out there with that day. They said Cheryl wasn't with a Shelby Duncan. She was with a Cheryl Loeffler. Pay attention to what's about to be said.
told them that, her car was there, and here's how it got there. I think, again, nobody saw her. Nobody saw DP. I don't have any reason to believe she was there because, there's nobody corroborating the story that she was there. I'm not sure she ever said she was there. Yeah, she and Cheyenne are friends because they were married to, one was married to two brothers. One was married and one was had a child with the other brother. So they were friends that way.
Do I need to replay that? Did you guys just catch that? Did that just go over everyone's head? Remember what we were talking about before I played this video? About Kylie Dowdy living at the Paladino compound, her baby's dad and her living at the Paladino compound, Mark Paladino being a drug dealer. Tip comes in that Derek German bought a shit ton of fucking meth, aka ice, from Mark Paladino and never paid for it. Kylie has a baby with an Ingalls. Ingalls' brother, Ingalls, is married to Cheyenne. The Shelby names are being thrown around like candy on the bridge, and no one can prove one way or the other that either Shelby was there.
Where Cheyenne says she saw.
She never said exactly where she saw him. She said that her story, and I'll be kind of frank here. I haven't found anything that she said to be truthful. She originally said she got there at 3:50, changed her story to she got there at 2:50. She showed a picture of from the day. Says that she said she went there to take pictures. She shows a picture and is taken around 3:00 of the bridge. She never said, she saw what time she saw him. Just that she saw a heterosexual couple, and also ran into a friend of hers who she said she didn't know was going to be there.
Well, the biggest point about DP being a person of interest is he was at the park that day, claims to be in the vicinity of the bridge, and has changed his story multiple times. Now you have Cheyenne that is eyewitness to DP being there, but she's constantly changing her story as well. It's very, very suspicious.
I think there are four people involved involved in that equation. I think DP, Cheyenne, Cheryl, and a girl named Shelby. And I think.
Okay, so you just heard him say there were 4 people involved: DP, Cheyenne, Cheryl, and Shelby. That has been the story from day one, way back in the day, where Tina Rodell has accused Cheyenne of lying about who she was at the trails with. Cheyenne testified she was there with Shelby Duncan. However, at trial, this is not made up, but at trial, she basically complains about the fact that law enforcement continued to ask her about the photographs that she had from being out there that day, if they were of Shelby Hicks. She said no. They kept saying, "This is Shelby Hicks." She said no. "Don't you mean this is Shelby Hicks?" She said no. Daniel Pearson was dating a girl, claims he didn't come forward because he was out on the trails with another girl named Shelby Hicks. Now, no one's been able to prove or disprove that this Shelby Hicks was even out there with him. However, Tina Rodell and multiple others have claimed that Cheyenne lied about even being with Shelby Duncan. They said she was with Cheryl Loeffler. However, the story then spirals into whoever Cheyenne was with or whoever she ran into was a friend that she didn't expect to be there. But the two of them shared brothers. Cheyenne was married to one. The other one had a baby by one. Neither one of those names are a Shelby, and it's not a Cheryl. It's a Kylie that I already talked about. So I'm going to play it back. I don't even know if Cheryl Loeffler even was spoken to. But I'm telling you that I have been saying for 3 years now that I've got this girl claiming that she lived at the Paladino property with her boyfriend during the time of the Delphi murders. And she believed, and I have it in writing, that she claimed she stood by her theory that the Paladinos were involved. And her baby's dad's brother was married to Cheyenne, which is why in 2017, Cheyenne's last name was Ingalls.
That one of them has something to do with a car that was parked at the CPS building that law enforcement inquired about.
So who is this Shelby?
She's a friend of they're all friends. I know she went to law enforcement too.
It's all bullshit. I think this is all bullshit, which is why Shelby Hicks nor Shelby Duncan were ever called to testify at trial.
Tell them kind of straighten out the vehicle situation. I think there was a lot of confusion about where everybody parked, what time everybody got there, whose cars were there. I think she went and told them that, her car was there, and here's how it got there. I think, again, nobody saw her. Nobody saw DP. I don't have any reason to believe she was there because, there's nobody corroborating the story that she was there. I'm not sure she ever said she was there. Yeah, she and Cheyenne are friends because they were married to, one was married to two brothers. One was married and one was had a child with the other brother. So they were friends that way.
But does Cheyenne ever say when she saw Cheryl?
She says that Cheryl got there. Cheyenne says she got there about 2:50. She said that Cheryl got there about 2:30. She didn't say exactly what point she ran into him or ran into her. I'm sorry.
So we're going to exclude Shelby because we don't believe that she was there. But other than Cheyenne and Cheryl, do we have anybody?
We don't know that Cheryl was there either.
Right. But do we have anybody at the park seeing DP that day?
No. Nobody saw DP except Cheyenne. Okay. But nobody saw Cheyenne. Nobody saw Cheryl. Nobody saw Shelby. They all were there at the park in the same time frame that several other people were there, including FSG, but nobody saw any of them. I think the timeline and the vehicles are the critical part of the case. I think it's likely law enforcement knows or has a particular POI, person of interest, and I think that was probably gathered from those two things. The timelines never made sense amongst any of the witnesses or any of the people that were there, and neither has the vehicle situation.
So you're telling me that Cheyenne says, I saw DP at the park, but we don't know what time she's claiming she saw him. Is she saying that he was with somebody or alone?
She was saying he was with somebody. That was they were part of the heterosexual couple, as how she described it.
But the person that she's saying he was with is this person X.
Yes.
That's what makes this person so interesting to me, is because none of the stories line up. None of the stories make any sense. So if you're
Okay, I'm going to stop that there. You see where I'm going with all of this and why the stories are like discombobulated. So, after listening to that, and if you want to listen to it again, you guys can rewind on replay, however you guys want to do it. But just know that at trial, Cheyenne testifies that her and Shelby Duncan rode together in Cheyenne's car. She claimed she arrived around 2:50, parked in the grass. You can listen to multiple different people's trial recap. Doesn't matter. She claims they start walking towards the bridge. As they're walking towards the bridge, they passed flannel shirt guy with a camera around his neck. They get to the bridge. Daniel Pearson is on the bridge, on the first platform. They chit-chat, they say hello. Cheyenne and her friend Shelby then begin to cross the bridge. Now, we are right around the 3 o'clock marker. Derek German has showed up. Derek German parks at the Mears lot, approaches the Monon High Bridge. This is all testified to. There's one statement that's left out. And that is when he approaches and he runs into Dave McCain, flannel shirt guy, that he's told, I've not seen two girls, but there's a couple arguing under the bridge. So Derek then turns around and goes out towards Freedom Bridge. My issue is with this whole scenario right here is if Cheyenne and whoever she was with, possibly nobody, past flannel shirt guy with the camera around his neck, who then happens upon Derek German and tells him there's people arguing under the bridge. They are right there near that intersection of the trail that goes down to Deer Creek that takes you down under the north end of the bridge. How did Dave McCain hear people arguing under the bridge and that be the group that Daniel Pearson later claims he was a part of? But yet Cheyenne gets to the bridge and Daniel Pearson's on it. There's no way. I'm not saying that Dave McCain led anyone away from anywhere. What I'm saying is that someone is lying. Someone is lying, and you have to ask yourself, who was in the foreground of the Bridge Guy video? Who are the people in the background behind the Bridge Guy video? How is Daniel Pearson underneath the north end of the bridge arguing with someone that Dave McCain hears? During the time that Cheyenne is on her way to the north end of the bridge and claims that Daniel Pearson is there. That's my hang up. And on my next episode, I will have all of this mapped out. I will have a better timeline of all of this labeled out for you guys, and even more of the Daniel Pearson effery. And then we're going to get into this right here. Here's a whole nother shit show for you guys to think about. The white car, the timing, what Cheyenne said, what Cheyenne didn't say, the Hoosier Harvest camera. We're going to get into all of that. I'm already way ahead of schedule on the timeline, but we've already been on here for what? 3, 4, 5, 4 hours. So I need to hop off. Yeah, Cheyenne like he said Cheyenne lied repeatedly, but Cheyenne was put on the stand. So that's what we have to use to pin her down. And the fact that it was made out to believe that Cheyenne was with someone, or no, I'm sorry. I take that back. I recant that whole thing. Cheyenne claims she ran into someone that she did not expect to be there, and they were friends because they had relationships with 2 brothers in common. One was married to, one had a baby by. I guess we're supposed to believe there's a whole nother set of brothers, a whole nother property that people connected in Monticello are related to, living on the compound, owned by a Mark Paladino, who a tip was called in that he sold Derek German a shit ton of drugs that were never paid for. I'm not saying I'm 100% on board. I'm saying let's talk it through. And truth over verdict, you're right. Derek German has never came out and spoke on behalf of his daughter. So love you guys. Really quick, please go hit that like button for me. Please, it helps. And if you're on the replay crew and you skip the beginning of this, please go back and listen regarding my instructions about what you leave in the comments and information and arguments about agreeing with what I'm putting out here or not. I'm not saying that you can't. I just want you to do it respectfully. And if you have information that proves my information wrong, I'm more than welcome to look at it, but just send it to me in an email. And then I will go back and I will edit my PowerPoint. And if you guys are not a part of my case-by-case discussion group on Facebook, you should join it, because all of my presentations are going to slowly and methodically be uploaded there. And I have a lot of updates coming up about the Ashley Garth case. And if you are here because you are now realizing that innocent people get convicted all the time, I'm here to tell you that Ashley Garth's case is one of those cases. And I've got 3 court briefs to go over regarding her case. We are now in wait mode, waiting for the appellate court to respond. It could take anywhere from 2 to 6 months. We are praying she gets a new trial. She deserves a new trial. So the next time I go live just to discuss her case, for all of you who support the channel, hopefully you guys will come out and support her as well. Thank you all for being here. Love you all so much. What? Pauletta, what are you talking about? Oh my goodness, rude. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll try to catch up in the chat. Cindy, what you got for FYI? I was supposed to have already had going forward. I was supposed to have already had a live on Foul Play with Dr. Silkman and some other people, but Dr. Silkman is just now getting over COVID. He got really sick, so he wasn't able to do a live. We're rescheduling that now. I do have, hopefully, 2 really fantastic upcoming guests that are locally from the area. One was he was hospitalized and forced to be injected with Haldol, and he's going to share his experiences in regards to Rick Allen's experiences. And then I have somebody else who is got a hell of a story to tell about the drug trafficking, individuals being used as criminal informants in Indiana, and how they're taken advantage of and how it correlates to this case. I will keep you guys all posted. Yes, watch David Kallenberger on my channel too. My goodness, that case is so crazy. So in the meantime, love you all. Stay safe, stay positive. Look for my next upcoming live. Hopefully I'll be able to do 1 or 2 this weekend. I can't make any promises. But I'm ahead thanks to taking some time off work. So, all right, guys, I'll see you later. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe and become a channel member, because I have another case that I'm going to be covering here in the very near future that it's going to blow your mind if you're not familiar. And even if you are familiar, it's going to blow your mind, but it's very equivalent to this Delphi case. Thanks, Callie. Love you, streets. See you guys later. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.